Yo. Hello, hello, hello. Yo. Welcome. Welcome. Hello, guys. Welcome. Yo, what's up? What's up? Hi. Hello there. Yo, welcome. It's been a few days. Welcome. I've been itching to play. It's been a few days. I've been thinking whether we wanna jump into the extra chapter right now or we wanna go straight into the next one. I'm not sure still. I can't see my mouse either. Oh, here we go. But we left off at some point, I don't remember. And there is a 0.5 chapter here, Martha. So we should probably do this, right? Chapter 7. Martha's probably not gonna be too long. It's only one. So we should probably just do it and then go into the next chapter after it. I feel like that's best play here. Yeah. Short. Perfect. That's what I like to hear. Let's just jump right into it then. 13-hour extra. Uh-oh. Walking around the mansion at night often led to mysterious encounters. Mist might suddenly fill the hallway. Or doors might appear and disappear. Yo, what's up, Vox? Just when Soldier thought he had seen it all with big-shaped shadows manning the carpet, he heard the sound of a bird flapping coming from the sunroom.
何事?
As much as he had become accustomed to turning a blind eye to such occurrences, the sound of flapping wings in the sunroom was too much to ignore. And not just one bird or even two, it sounded like dozens. So many birds packed in the sunroom would inevitably lead to shattered windows and broken glass. Yo, what's up, gents? Soldier grabbed a broom and dashed toward the sound, prepared for the worst. Perhaps he was moved by his natural impulse to help, or desperate self-defense. His mind flashed what the teacher had said at school.
皆さんも部屋の整頓は心がけてくださいね。人間の自制心って環境に流されるらしいですから。
Bro saying this in high school? I feel like it's a bit late at that point.
ほら、
but
それまで犯罪の少ない町だったのに、一つボロボロの家ができただけで、近隣住人がみんな自堕落になるというあれ。環境への無関心さがすさんだ精神を作り上げるとか眉唾ですけど、正直なところブームだからって盗んだバイクで走り回ったり学校の廊下の窓ガラスとか割って回っちゃダメですよ。先生の仕事が増えますから。
At the time, school gangs had garnered a sudden reputation among the youths.
窓が割れると
Cruelty. He had to protect the honor of the student council president, of course. Stream died! It shouldn't have died. It was also concerned for his own safety that sent him rushing to the sunroom. However... Oh, wait, did it die for a second? Huh, it didn't say anything on my end. Interesting. There wasn't a bird to be seen or a chirp to be heard upon his arrival. Died for a sec? Uh-oh. Uh-oh! Surely that's not a bad omen. Only Alice and Aoko, sipping afternoon tea at the table that overlooked the courtyard, were present. The dozens of birds which Soldier had sensed with his mountain intuition were nowhere to be seen.
今ここに鳥が来なかった。
アリス、見た?
Oh shit, it is Friday the 13th. Oh no. Oh no.
さあ、もう見えないのならいないということでしょう。
I like that mantra.
だっていないよ、鳥。
If I can't see it, it mustn't exist. I like that. It was a lie, so blatant even Sojiro could see through it.
そんなバカな。
He knew for a fact he had heard the flapping of a flock of birds. Unable to accept that there really were no wild animals in the room, Sojiro approached the windows with suspicion. There were no feathers or any other signs of birds having been outside either.
あ、夕食、鳥鍋?
That's where the birds are. Of course, Aoko would say something like that. She watched Sojiro search desperately.
あいにく今日のバイトは魚屋さんだ。イワシでよければ土産にするけど。
イワシか私、あのパイ嫌いなのよね。
Sardine pie. Yummy. Ugh.
いえ、むしろイワシのパイとか食べたことないのよね。
Aoko's stand-up routine was far ahead of its time. Sojiro backed away from the window and begrudgingly left the sunroom. Feeling Alice's all too familiar, inscrutable gaze upon his back.
なんだいアリ。
And just as he opened his mouth to ask what she wanted. Robin! A blue comet crashed into his head. It needed no explanation. It could only be Robin, the mysterious bird that appeared frequently in the mansion. Chirp, 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 it shrilled accusingly. The truth was, the tiny aggressor that assaulted him just now was the greatest of the mansion's 7 wonders. Okay. Good vibes are back. The soldier encountered all sorts of people along his route to work. Still new to city life, he found the crowds of people outside the station utterly fascinating. In fact, they were the highlight of his commute. No two people wore exactly the same clothes or walked in the same fashion. With so many people, you would think they would all melt into an indistinguishable huddle, but each person he saw was different and unique. Soldier was excited as a child as he looked out at the bustling, diverse streets of the city.
いや。
Was as excited as a child, I think. Closing his eyes in shame, he sighed. He was upset with himself for behaving like a bumbling tourist from the countryside.
ちょっと、青信号で突っ立ってられるの邪魔な
It's
ん
a
だけど。
classmate.
何柄にもなく黄昏れてるんだか。
She's kind of like the goat. A sudden familiar voice behind him snapped him out of his navel gazing.
なんだ、マッドベアに行く途中だったんだ。私はコンビニのバイト。こっちは5時からだけど。しずきは？
同じく5時から。くまりはどこか寄るところでも？
本屋に寄った帰り、読みたかった本がなくなってたから仕方なく出歩いてたところよ。
なるほど。時間を持て余しているところも同じだね。
The girl who greeted them was Kojika Kumari, that's the name, a work friend who was also in the same year at Misaki High. Okay, not a classmate, just a peer. Kojika Kumari. Though it would have been more accurate to say she was looking for a pretext to fight him rather than greet him. To Sojiro, Kumari had been the first person in the city he could look up to. They'd met at his first job, where she insisted he wasn't cut out to work the register after many mistakes, and convinced him to quit working at convenience stores altogether. Damn, okay. In the end, she introduced him to his current job at the Chinese restaurant, the Mad Bear, a much better fit for Sojiro. Okay, she is kind of like the goat.
何その無理やりの顔。なんか元気ない。いつも以上にイラッとくるわ。しずきのいいところなんて、いつもピシッとしてる背筋ぐらいなのに、みっともなく丸まってるし。もしかして悩みとかあるの？マッドベアにタチの悪い先輩でもいるとか。それなら話ぐらいは聞いてあげるから。言ってみたら。
Damn. Though her tone was stern, her eyes were earnest. Having grown up in the city herself, she was irritated by virtually everything Sojiro said and did. Nevertheless, she still treated him like an equal. Introducing him to his current job was just one example of her sincerity.
いや、別に悩みとかそういうんじゃなくて、不思議なことがあったというか、珍しいものを見たというか。
Sojiro could not find the words to explain his situation, but that did not stop him from trying. There were no problems in the Mad Bear to speak of. He liked it just as much as his other job at Uotatsu, the fishmongers in the shopping district. In fact, his problem had nothing to do with work at all. No, his problem was a certain blue bird that would not stop pecking at him recently.
鳥につっつかれる？何それ、小さい悩み。でもまあ、青い鳥っていうのは確かに珍しいわね。
いや、珍しいのは外見の話
I
じ
love
ゃ
her
なくて。
tone. He stopped, unsure of how to proceed. Words alone were not enough to convey the bird's plump body or the sound of its chirping.
ふーん。綺麗な青色といったらマウンテンブルーバードだけど、日本にはいないわよね。青いツバメだったらいるかもしれないけど。
It doesn't look
い
like
や、
it.
ツバメじゃなくて丸っこいんだ。図鑑で調べたんだけど、どうもコマドリっぽいけど。
うん、青色のコマドリは存在しない。
But robins are in blue.
しずきは縁日の青ひよこって知ってる？知らないわよね。いい、そう面白い話じゃないから忘れて。
Dude, the voice direction is so
それ
good.
よりそのコマドリって1話だけなの？
ああ、1話だけだ。
Wait.
つがいは見当たらない。
しずきは縁日の青ひよこって知ってる？知らないわよね。いい、そう面白い話じゃないから忘れて。
That's such a good line. That's such a well recorded line.
ふーん。突然変異だとしたらちょっとかわいそうね。生まれた時から最後の1話だなんて孤独にも程があるわ。どんな鳥かは知らないけど、次に見かけたら優しくしてあげたら、自販機で10円を拾うぐらいの幸運は運んでくれるかもよ。
The words are perfectly kind, but he could hardly sympathize with the creature after all the painful packing to which it had subjected him. He wouldn't have called the bird lonely either.
いいじゃない、小鳥1羽ぐらい。そりゃ都会で鳥につつかれるのは珍しいけど、いい方の珍事よそれ。これがゴミ袋を漁るカラスの大群だったら困りものでしょうけど。
あ、そういえば他にも気になることが。
Her example had reminded them of a mystery of the disappearing birds of the mansion. A stranger than strange event.
実は今あそこに見える丘に住んでるんだけど。
Secret third route? Fuck
出
yeah.
るんだ。大量のムクドリが頻繁に。そのくせ街に出ると見かけない。
What's up, Manju?
当たり前でしょう。街じゃ鳥なんて見かけないし、あそこは山だから動物は多いんじゃない？それよりあなた、あの山に引っ越したの？前のアパートは引き払ったって聞いてたけど、学校まで通うの大変じゃない。なんだってあんな偏僻なところに。
ちょっとした成り行きだよ。それに通うのは大変じゃない。大変なのは中の話なんだ。
It is Martha. That's it. I don't know. Okay.
Huh?
It took 30 minutes to reach town on foot. Okay, that's fine. That's a nice walk. The 40 minutes to the nearest convenience store would be the real kicker for most people, but for Sojiro, it was no inconvenience. The real problem was the dark forces beyond human understanding that lurked within the grounds.
すまない。それはクマリに話すことじゃなかった。それより今の話だ。街には鳥が少ないと言ったけど、どうして？
単に環境に適応できなかったのよ。何？鳥の話には随分と食いつくわね。しずき、動物好き？
どちらかというと好きな方だけど。
There's not many birds, huh?
そう、私は嫌い。そんな私に鳥の話とかしてほしい。
Her statement could hardly be more self-contradictory. Minutes after telling him to be nice to a bird that attacked him, she was now claiming she did not even like animals.
そうだな。嫌いなだけで苦手でないのなら、知ってる範囲で聞かせてほしい。
痛いとこつくじゃない。いいわ、バイトまでの時間つぶしにしてあげる。さっきの続き。 環境に適応できるかできないかってところからね。今でこそこんなだけど、岬はここまで大きな町じゃなかったんだって。昔はその半分が森だったから、彼らはもともと森に適した生活をしていたのよ。
Woodland, okay. The way Kumari addressed them was of note. Whether she liked them or not, she seemed to at least have some respect for them.
でも近代化した町じゃ自然のサイクルも成り立たない。人間ってのはまず環境を自分たちの都合に変えるから。ヤブ蚊が多いってことで小さな川の流れを変えたり、町中コンクリートで塗り固めちゃえば鳥的にはお手上げよ。
Short straws, the city modernized. Diverting streams to get mosquitoes cutting anytime it made the area unlivable for the birds makes sense.
虫も森も少ないんじゃ、もう山に逃げるしかない。
Makes sense.
彼らは故郷を追われてこの森から山に移った。人間にとって都合のいい町は鳥たちが生きるコロニーにはなり得ないから。
そんなことぐらいで減るものか？その姿を見なくなるぐらいに？
そこまで極端じゃないとは思う。現にあなただってムクドリを見てるでしょ。比較の問題よ。町には人間が多いから鳥の姿は余計希少に感じるだけ。たまに見かけるだけで珍しいと思えるぐらいにね。
I really like the voice direction for her. It's really cool.
鳥は町からいなくなっただけであの山に移り住んで。
Humans might not be able to see them in day-to-day life, but they were alive and well nonetheless. Their habitat and lifestyle changed with the times, but they never truly disappeared. Sojourner's sense of relief was sharply disrupted by a serious look from Kumari.
あの山に天敵がいなければね。人間の手による乱獲か、移った先にいる生態系との衝突か。どちらにせよ、居場所を失った彼らの寿命は短いと思う。一世紀持てばいい方かもしれない。旅行鳩の例もあるし、気がついた時には取り返しつかないのが動物と人間の関係よ。
旅行鳩？
そう、旅行鳩。体長は40センチほどもある大型の綺麗な鳥。
That's like 40 centimeters, isn't it? Damn. Okay.
オスの翼は深い青色で、胸は鮮やかなエンジ色。オレンジ色の目は嘘みたいに愛らしくて、
60 miles.
その羽は時速100キロで長い距離を旅するの。
The last scene of the previous chapter was about a bird getting shot in the air. Oh, yeah, true. Her voice had a certain tenderness to it. She was daydreaming about birds she had never even seen in the flesh.
北アメリカにいた鳩でね、春は南から北へ、冬は冬越えのために北から南に移動するの。今から100年以上も前の話よ。彼らはかつて地上で最も繁殖した高等動物だった。何しろその数は50億。当時の総人口より多かったっていうんだから、圧巻よね。
Wait, what was the population of people in the 80s?
なんと人間より数の多い動物がいたっていうのか？
うん。でも彼らは絶滅したわ。他ならぬ人間の手によって。16世紀にヨーロッパからアメリカ大陸にやってきた探検家たちは空を覆い尽くすほどの鳥の群れを見た。それが旅行鳩を記した一番古くて確かな記録。まあ私も本で知った知識だけど、太陽を隠してそのおびただしい数で森を覆って雪のように糞を落としていく光景なんて今じゃもう夢物語でしょうね。
Block out the sun, cover whole forests and rain out droppings like snow.
でも当時の人にとっては悪夢だった。
1880s it was 1.5 billion. That checks out. That checks out. Rio back then was more like a
旅行
nightmare.
馬と一羽一羽は美しいフォルムをしていても、それだけの数が集まれば、それはもう暴力なんだから。
5.14 billion in 1988. Okay, okay, I see. That's crazy. I would have guessed like 6 billion. 5.14 is crazy. A crazy change in just 40 years. That's an... wow, that's a big... That's like over 60% increase. Okay, well...
彼らはその時点では森を破壊し、人間を脅かす悪魔のような存在だった。営巣地は 10km にまで及んで、1コロニーにつき5万羽近い鳥の鳴き声が響いたのよ。
50,000. Damn.
一瞬にして風景を変えるほどの鳥の群れと、世界を覆うほどの鳴き声。冒険家たちが救んだのもうなずけるわね。
一つの住処に5万羽。
Sojo trailed off as he attempted to count the numbers with the number with his digits. He could barely count the number of people in the crowd outside the station. This would be far beyond his capacity.
でもそんな数の鳥を人間の手でどうやって。
ええ、当時誰もがそう思ったんでしょうね。でも話は簡単だったの。人間にとって旅行馬とは脅威でもあったけど、同時に安価な実りでもあったから。渡り鳥の胸肉は美味しいでしょ？よく鍛えられてるから。そんな食材が空に向かって鉄砲を撃つだけでバタバタと落ちてきたとしたら、あなたはどうする？
Yeah.
まあ、身も蓋もないことを言えば、旅行馬とって鳥は簡単にお金にできる生き物だった。かくして狩りは延々と続けられた。落ちた鳥は羽をむしられて、塩漬けの樽に押し込まれて、次々と出荷された。
To preserve them? Okay.
それはもう狩りですらなかった。ただの消費。人間側は労働の実感も作業の手間すら感じなくなっていた。その頃、旅行馬とは1羽1セントで手に入れることができたんだって。ここで言うならたった1円。ほんと。信じられる？その国最小の通貨1枚で売買される命が、この地球にはあったなんて。
Kumari spoke as if reciting from a textbook. Her voice, nevertheless, had a certain darkness to it. Was it pity for the slain birds, or disgust for the fellow man? Either way, the passenger pigeon's fate was a cruel joke carried out by humanity. Typical, some might say. Poor Sojiro had yet to comprehend just how typical that side of humanity was.
けど、それはまだまだ序の口で、本番は19世紀に入ってからだった。人間の旅行馬と狩りはますます熱狂していった。学校で習ったでしょ？ゴールドラッシュ。南北戦争を経て、アメリカ合衆国は急激に成長していく。西欧からの移民は増え続け、1870年には4000万もの人口に達していたわ。
40 million, wow,
そんな
okay.
移民たちの胃袋と財布を満たす材料として、旅行馬とは最高の獲物だった。
Yeah, this is really cool.
もっと最悪なことに、人間は工夫する生き物だった。彼らはより早く、より多く、より簡単に旅行馬とを乱獲する手段を競い合った。目をつぶした鳩をおとりにして集団を誘い込んで、1日で1万羽以上捕らえたやつさえいた。それでも彼らは乱獲に疑問すら持たなかった。繁殖と狩猟のバランスは誰が見ても明らかに狂っていたのに。
She was doing everything she could to speak in calm, measured tones. Sojiro, meanwhile, was completely enraptured by her words. Having been raised in the mountains, it was by no means a happy story for him, but right now, he's more interested in knowing why it ever happened in the first place.
それ一方的すぎないか？旅行バトだって数が減ってくれば人間には近寄らないんじゃ。
Oh, the turtle? It was the, yeah, the tortoise, right? The Galapagos tortoise or whatever it is. Yeah. They went extinct. Because every single time, they were, wasn't the story that they were going to bring the turtle or the tortoise back to the scientist from wherever it lived? They were gonna bring it back by ship to the scientist to name it, to give it like a Latin name and stuff like that, scientific name for it. But they got so hungry and the tortoises were too delicious, so they ended up eating them on the way to the scientist. So they never actually got a name until like later down the line because they kept eating the tortoises to extinction. What's up, Luna? And also I think those tortoises had like a sack of like really neatly preserved water within them as well. So like you had a whole meal inside one tortoise, right? Delicious meat plus a glass of water. Especially back then where like water was hard, like actually good water was hard to come by. Yeah, exactly, Arnold. Yeah. Should I try harder to avoid humans? Oh.
そこが彼らの不幸だったのよ。旅行鳩は繁殖力が非常に弱くて、自衛手段を持たない鳥だった。大群で暮らすこと、それだけが彼らの身を守る手段だったの。
Yeah, so they had to live together in groups, which made them easy targets.
彼らが50億の王国を築けたのは、それまで天敵がいなかったからなんでしょうね。先住民であるインディアンも彼らを乱獲することはなかったというし。けど入植者たちは自然のサイクルには点で疎かった。
Classic. Another Columbus cell.
何よりあのおびただしい数の鳥が絶滅するなんて夢にも思わなかった。旅行鳩にしたら晴天の霹靂よ。まさか何世紀も遅れて海の向こうから天敵がやってくるなんて。そうして1896年、人間はようやく熱狂を冷ますほどの現実に直面したわ。たったの25万羽。それが確認された旅行鳩の総数。何もかも手遅れよ。急いで保護法が作られたけど、人間の習慣はそう簡単には変わらないわ。あるいは狩人たちはこう思ったのかもしれない。まだ25万羽もいるじゃないか。1000羽や2000羽ぐらいなら独り占めしても構わないだろうって。そうしてハンターたちは当時最新の技術、電報で旅行鳩たちの所在を知らせ合って、実に20万羽の旅行鳩を仕留め、4万羽を傷つけた。生き延びたのは5000羽だけ。この時点で彼らは野生で生きられる種ではなくなったのよ。
The group would be too small. A soldier's face sunk into a scowl. No longer able to survive in the wild. He knew all too well what that phrase meant. No wild animal can last long on its own. No animal can survive without a sufficiently large population of their fellow kind and sufficient feeding grounds to support the group. Strength in their massive numbers was all the passenger pigeons ever had, and so once that was gone, they were as good as extinct.
それで旅行鳩はどうなったんだ？
最後に保護された旅行鳩はたったの3羽。シンシナティの動物園ではオス2羽、メス1羽の旅行鳩が飼育されたけど、1年でオスたちは死んじゃったわ。
Man, Cincinnati Zoo does not have a good rap, does it?
残されたのはメス1羽だけ。その時点で彼女は地上で最も孤独な生き物になった。名前はマーサ。北アメリカを旅する鳥たちの最後の1羽でありながら、ただの一度も空を飛ぶことができなかったカゴの鳥。
Jesus Christ.
結局29年で彼女はその命を終えたわ。1914年 9月1日午後1時。
1914, that's a... wow, crazy.
一つの種が終わる時間がここまで正確に残っている例は今のところこれだけよ。
That's the only case? Wow! That's such a sad and depressing story to hear. Jesus Christ. The story of 5 billion deaths had finally come to an end. The birds have been swallowed up by the machinations of human civilization. Kumari had intended to show her sympathy for the lost species, but the emotional impact had clearly been all but lost on Sojuro.
意外。できるだけ私的に語ったつもりだけど受け悪いみたい。山育ちのあなたには憤慨者の話だと思ったのに。
え？いや、すごい話だったけど、整理がつかなくて、当時の人たちは自分たちの手で減らしておいたのに、なんで最後は保護したのかって。
Kumari stared blankly at him, eyebrows raised high. What he likely meant to ask was why humans would protect the last of a species. They themselves had hunted into extinction. Well, Sojiro, Sonoji, my boy, humans are not one conglomerate, one mindset. That's why. Kumari could hardly be blamed for her bewilderment. Having been raised in the city, she failed to recognize the danger inherent in his cluelessness. He felt neither anger toward humans, for their base selfishness, nor sympathy for the birds, who remained in their natural habitat even at the cost of their lives. His upbringing had not provided him with the necessary sense of self-righteousness to produce feelings in either direction.
相変わらずよくわかんないやつ。まあ、私が言いたかったのは、どんなに強く美しく見えても、居場所から追われた生き物は儚いってこと。しずきくん。あなたが見た鳥は、その最後の一羽かもしれないわよ。
And with that, their idle conversation came to an end. It was nearly time for their shifts to begin, and Sojiro was the first to head off.
らしくない。何熱く語ってたんだろう、私。
Kumari remained in the park until Sojiro left. Martha, the last of her species. She had not been referring to the blue bird when she mentioned Martha.
やめやめ。珍しいから特別視するとか、バカみたいだし。
Yo, is this a mention of notes? They were rare, but not valuable. She rubbed the back of her head, apparently angry at herself for getting involved in something that was none of her business. She and Sojiro were not even in the same class at school. She was a total stranger as far as she was concerned. The more something bothered her, the more she felt compelled to investigate it. It was a personal quirk of hers, and the only reason she had gotten so worked up about the passenger pigeons. Kumari's well-groomed brow furrowed. She had only spoken to Sojiro to make sure he was doing okay at the Mad Bear. Or maybe it was that she had been strangely drawn to him. The more they spoke, the more she felt drawn to him. Oh boy.
見てて頼りないってのが一番だろうけど。話してみるとしっかりしすぎてるのよね、彼。
I guess so, in a way. Amidst her muttered complaints, she recalled their conversation upon parting.
で、少しは街に慣れた？
To which he had given a weak shake of his head.
全然。何にせよ、覚えなくちゃいけないことが多すぎて。
He was trying his best to keep up with the overwhelming amount of new information every day. However, despite his apparent naivety and frailty, he was in fact trying to learn everything he could about his new surroundings. But at the same, there was no reason it needed to be so overwhelming in the first place. It was only due to his own naively subordinate frame of mind that he felt compelled to memorize each and every detail.
どうだろう。 素直っていうのはちょっと違うと思うよ。単にそれがいいことか悪いことかまだ分かってないだけかもしれないし。
You awkwardly claimed.
そうね。でももしかしたらそもそも。
Kumari stopped herself mid-train of thought, deciding to instead wave goodbye and take her leave. She sighed aloud every time she replayed the scene in her head. Work at the convenience store started in 5 minutes. She gave herself a light slap on the face in an effort to forget the conversation. She reminded herself that she had neither the energy to worry about other people's problems nor the obligation to do so. She had her own concerns, saving up enough money for college, for example. Fighting against her parents' opposition every night was draining enough. There was no room for burdening herself with other students' issues.
でももしかしたらそもそも。
It was not like her to get so tongue-tied. She thought to herself under a strained smile.
ほんとはっきり言ってやればよかった。あなたは単にそういうのに関わる気がこれっぽっちもないんじゃないのかって。
He really did annoy her. Now, in a thoroughly bad mood, she left the park in a huff. When Sojiro entered the drawing room after work with a gift of sardines for his roommates, he came face to face with Alice sitting on the sofa.
や、こんばんはアリス。
The sense of familiarity to be able to say I'm home when entering the mansion still eluded Sojiro. He headed straight for the kitchen to fill a bucket with water to keep the sardines fresh. But the icy stare on his back sent him anxiously to the refrigerator instead.
台所にバケツはダメなんだな。
Calmly accepting the change of plans, he shoved the sardines into the fridge and peeked back into the drawing room.
アリス、青崎は？
さあ、自分の部屋にいるか出かけているんでしょう。
Her reply was curt. He nodded and got to work cleaning the kitchen. There was nothing in particular he wanted to say to her, and also sensed that it would not be a good idea to start up a conversation needlessly. So he tidied up the sink area, washed the cutting board, wiped down the knives, and put away the cutlery so they would be easily found. Her black eyes monitored every action in his streamlined workflow. A rhythm that even the most seasoned housekeeper would be envious of. He would surely notice her gaze before too long. He bent over to store a large pot under the sink where it happened. As he began to stand back up, he locked eyes with Alice and then...
今すぐロビーに顔を貸せっせ
What the fuck? What? Before he could make another move, he felt something slamming to the back of his head. A bright shock of blue. What? He knew what it was without looking. It could only be the mansion's blue robin.
洋館に戻ってくるなり、コマ鳥に呼び出される。
Are we just gonna ignore the fact that it screamed? Sojiro muttered under his breath. It was a rare situation that made Sojiro feel like complaining.
小僧、ちょっとそこに座れっす。
What the fuck? The robin chirped in its shrill tone. You see, this little creature that loved to attack Sojiro so was the greatest of the mansion's many wonders, and with good reason.
舐めてるっすね。自分コマ鳥だって舐めてるっすね。ところで、鶏鍋ってどういうことっすか？それ美味しいっすか？今度見舞ってほしいっす。
Something against a Richard III. Like so. The soldier had an inkling of what the bird was getting at. Someone raised in the mountains. This was an utter nightmare. Animals were not supposed to be able to talk. Then again, having lived in the mountains for over a decade, he did sometimes feel like he could understand what birds were trying to say. He knew it was just his imagination, but sometimes he thought they even saw him as a friend. He's going full Dr. Dolittle. And that was not the case with this bird. Sojiro had a realistic attitude towards wild animals as a result of being so familiar with them, unconscious of the ever mysterious humans who lived in the city.
しかし
Oh.
現実だ。
As much as he wanted to deny the reality he was facing, he could not help but recall Kumari's story. She had said to try to and be nice to the bird the next time he saw it. According to her, any rare or one-of-a-kind creature must accordingly feel very lonely.
座れって言ってるのに仕方っすか。
Oh god.
あーでも椅子ないっすねここ。じゃあ立ってるっす。小坊主だけに廊下に立ってるのがお似合いっす。
I do love the way that he speaks. The way it ends its sentences.
あれ今はうまいこと言ったんすかね
The
自分。
The bird perched itself on the telephone receiver, seemingly worn out from all the flapping. Soldier was dumbfounded. Listening in silence to the bird's chatter was his way of expressing his denial.
自分長いっす。プロイ歴長いっすよ。マイ女神の頃からアリスさんに仕えてるっす。
There's no
な
way
ん
we
で
have a
青いか
Robin.
とかどうでもいいっす。
There's no way we have a Robin in the Mahoa collab, surely. I said Miss Alice from when the goddess mom was around. Goddess mom. Don't ask why I'm blue.
特技はズバリ探偵役と被害者役。でも探偵である自分が真っ先にコロコロするんで、誰が自分を殺したか結局誰もわからないっす。
プロイ、あ、待ってくれ。それには聞き覚えがある。プロイって
We know that
何
he's
な
a
んだ？
ploy. なんなんだと言われても困るっす。エロいとか役いいとかの最上級じゃないっすか。
Thusly, the conversation began between the two most powerless residents of the Kuonji estate. Humankind and birdkind, able to understand one another after all. I like how the story is like putting them on the same level. Soldier was tired of letting the bird get to him, fully aware that ignoring it took more energy than it was worth. Filled with a sense of resignation, by the time he finally did make an attempt to interject, both parties' guard were firmly down. Soldier was focused on how rare the bird was, while Robin was focused on his showdown with his rival that was to be eliminated at all costs.
いいっすよ細けいことは。そんなことよりマイ天使アリスさんの話をするっす。
The angel mom. So we had the goddess mom who was, I'm guessing, Alice's mom, and then we have the angel mom who's Alice. Okay. Yeah. The holy glow.
アリスって天使なのか？
It was an impressive sign of progress that he did not need to ask what an angel was.
ヒユっす。自分にとって
Hey, bruv.
天使のような存在ってことっす。下界の喧騒とか自分の言葉を
Hey, bruv.
ガン無視するところとかマジ天使。
I guess it actually is English, this Robin. I guess the Kuonji family is British. Hey, bruv.
アリスさんは神聖不可侵にして冷酷非道。マイ女神であったところの母君とはちょっと毛色が違うっす。
Yeah, I guess so.
正直母君ちょっと育て方間違ったっすね。
British.
そうか。そりゃアリスにもお母さんはいるんだ
Yeah,
よな。
shocker. I know.
この家にはいないようだけど。
She just spawned.
イエス。悲しいことに見まかられたっす。
Oh, in
こ
it.
の頃は
In it.
前衛の鳥が鳴いたっす。アリスさんに負けないぐらい美しかったっす。あとでアルバムとか見るっすか？6ペンスで手を打つっすよ。
Sixpence. Oh my goodness. Her mom was even more smashing than Alice. My goodness, this bird.
いや、そういうのは本人の許しがないと。
Wow. Soldier said earnestly as he tilted his head. The reason for his unease was also due to the fact that he had grown more interested in Alice than before. Despite his attached and passive attitude, he was still a young man like any other after all.
イエス、それはそうっすね。お前シャバ像の割にいいこと言うっす。人の言葉とかみだりにしちゃいけないっす。 ところでアリスさんの子供時代の話とかしていいっすか？自分シャバ像の知らないアリスさんを赤裸々にアピールして精神的上位に立ちたいっす。
I mean, I wouldn't be against it, you know, on the down
い
low.
やだからそういう話は
安心しろっす。アリスさんには黙っておいてやるっすから。
Rabbit and... Bro, what are... Okay, sure.
ま
There's
ず
no way those
は
are
アリス
phrases.
に自分とアリスさんが初めて出会った時のメモリーを聞くっすよ。アリスさん見えて友達一人しかいなかったっすから、もっぱら自分が話し相手っつうか。ほら、壁相手にカコーンカコーンってピンポン玉打ち返すゲーム、あんな感じっす。アリスさんのメモリーはおよそ14
14
人
years of
分。
memories.
じゃあ1年目から行くっすよ。
いやだから
行くっすよー。もう誰も自分は止められないっす。
Jesus Christ. Who the fuck is voicing the bird? They're going all in. This bird was trouble. The word bird brain had taken on a whole new meaning to Sojiro. If he were stuck here listening any longer, he had a feeling he might hear something he would not be able to unhear.
すまない。そろそろいいかな。
With a wave of his hand, he attempted to flee to the attic above the second floor.
待つっす。ここからがいいところなのになんで去るっすか。スカーレット・オハラっすか。激動の主人公気取りっすか。
Misato Fukuen. Scarlett O'Hara.
そのあたり自分なんか納得いかないっす。まだうちに入ったばかりの新参者がなんでアリスさんの視点を独り占めしてるっすか。許せないっすけど、その秘訣を教えてほしいっす。切実に。自分本気出したらすごいっすよ。
What are you even saying, brother?
何
Nani? Halfway up the stairs already. Sojiro quickly retraced his steps.
君今のはどういう。
だからアリスさん好きあらばお前を見てるっす。思い出したっすよ。そもそも自分熱視線でサーチされてるからって突き上がるなと釘刺しに来たんす。
You don't... Just because she's looking you over with that burning look in her mean spies. Bro, what's the vocab here? Okay.
だいたいその字は何度も自分に助けられてるっす。
Iggy! It's Iggy in JoJo!
アリスさんの命令がなかったら今頃その字鏡の中でおだぶつっす。これなんすかね。人間の感情とかわかんないっすけど、魚辺に砂糖とか書くっすかね。
What are you... Rubber and glove that you guys get all Moby Dick over.
助けられてるって俺が。
Sushang in HSR. I mean, I don't play in Japanese, but...
まあ殺そうとしてるのもアリスさんっすけどね。アリスさんはこう言ったっす。彼が鏡の中に迷い込みそうになったら助けてあげて、危険なものには近寄らないように誘導もしてあげて。でも思い上がらないことにしずきくん。べちゃぼき
It happened in a flash. 07. 07 Robin. With a swift, unhesitating strike on her hand, Alice squashed the bird right then and there as it sat on the telephone receiver's stand in the foyer. Her pressed palm continued to pin it down. The bird's crushed form resembled a bright rubber ball, like what a child might play with.
アリスさん暗いっす。そして痛い。体中の血液がくちばしからこう
Ooh.
右方向に流れていく感覚とか。
And the bird raised a mighty uproar.
これの言うことは気にしないで。
Wait! Can I get rid of the... Is there a way to get rid of the thingy? Of... I just want to see the picture. I don't think I can get rid of it. Shit. Under? Oh yeah, that's right. Fuck. Well, it is what it is. Alice returned to the drawing room, taking the bird with her. Wait, shift to go back?
これの言うことは気にしないで。
Crazy. Crazy. Look at the bird just tweaking out. Wild. The controls in this are kind of insane. Alice returned to the drawing room, taking the bird with her. Her dark silhouette, cloaked in a shadow, was the complete opposite of the gaudy little bird. The soldier folded his arms as he stood alone, no less confused than before, and whispered,
こうしてますます疑問は増えていくのだった。
Yeah, you might be onto something. Up at the night sky, visible through the skylight. Okay. Well, on to chapter 8 we go. This was Martha. Chapter 8. Are you for real? Misaki High School's winter vacation began in mid-December. The tranquil air of the school was a refreshing change of pace from the more competitive schools and their nationally famous sports team and exam-oriented curriculum. The empty, newly constructed building evoked images of a pure white swan descending upon a still winter lake. The modern school building felt alive in its stillness in spite of the absence of its lifeblood of students. Most students never knew what this building used to look like. It was just a small, run-down wooden building, a shadow of its former self. The former school was never torn down and now stood in lonely silence. It was tucked away deep in a seemingly infinite wood that stretched across the mountains. The sound of brooms sweeping dead leaves resonated in the air. The ocean of leaves had accumulated into piles as big as sand dunes. Sweeping was a futile venture at this point. An ominous feeling lingered in the air, perhaps the result of 2 years of abandonment. Cleaning the inside of the building alone would take more than a few days to finish. Not to mention...
ほんとだり、存在価値が見出せねえ。ばっかじゃねえの。冬休みは短いってのになんでこんなことやらせんだよ、生徒会は。
Yo, what's up? The misguided youth sent here for the job wasted no time making it clear he wanted no part in the beautification efforts.
っていうか、ジャージでやらせんなよ。ジャンパーぐらい着させろよな。
What? They're not even allowing you to like wear something? That was like... I don't know, that kind of feels like abuse.
何これ、もしかして体育の報酬？寒中マラソン？俺体育だけはサボったことねえんすけどね。
Kosuke Kinomi continued to mumble and grumble to himself as he reluctantly swept away at the ground. Meanwhile, Sojiro silently and swiftly continued his sweeping, glaring at Kinomi out of the corner of his eye.
おい、何真面目にやってんだよ。こんなの適当でいいんだって。だいたい40人しかいねえのにこんな山みたいな庭の掃除なんか終わるかってんだ。
There's 40 of you?
終わらないことなんてない。少しうるさいぞ、木の実は。
Kinomi went back to idly swinging his broom without even glancing over at Sojiro. Mornings on the mountains were cold. There was no hint of sun in the cloudy sky above. Much grey light illuminated the rear courtyard. The sharp cold of midwinter pierced through everyone's gloves as if they did not exist. A day like this was best spent indoors under warm blankets, but for some reason, they were out here cleaning. The Special Winter Cleaning Team. That was the name given to this elite force sent to clean up this dilapidated, overgrown mountain. The other students had put their faith into this team to fulfill this purification mission, respecting them for their sacrifice. The reality, however, was that this was nothing more than a ragtag dare-losing gang of students needing remedial lessons before their exams. They were the victims of a year-long arm-twisting scheme by the student council. Who in their right mind would come out here to sweep up leaves with a blizzard looming on the horizon? Other than one of the 40 assembled. None of them had any semblance of interest in the task at hand.
おい見ろよしずき、赤羽たち向こうで焼き芋とかレトロな真似してやがる。
The 50s? Oh, that sounds fun. Roasting potatoes? Just making a fire, roasting some potatoes.
な、二番煎じはいかにも頭悪いしな。そうだ、俺たちはイカでも焼かねえ？
Yeah, let's go. Kinomi did not want to be here to begin with, and was constantly trying to break Sojiro into joining him. The cleaning squad was divided into groups. Sojiro and Kinomi were in charge of cleaning behind the gymnasium. Sojiro was the leader of the platoon. Kinomi was the grunt.
ああ、こことあっちの垣根をきれいにしたら、焼き芋だろうと焼きイカだろうと猫鍋だろうと好きにしよう。
Sojiro said as he excellently packed his swept leaves into trash bags. 2 hours had passed since they assembled on this foggy morning at 7 o'clock. While everyone else chatted and laughed as they worked, Sojiro alone had worked in complete silence at the same blistering pace since he started. The sheer amount of work he put in was likely the only thing keeping him from complaining of the cold in his thin jersey.
なあ、やめようぜ。見ろ、そこの池、スケートリンク？やっぱ池？とにかくそこの池らしきものだってカチカチに凍ってるぐらいなんだぜ。こんな雪原じゃ人体は普通動かねえよ。機械伯爵でもなきゃだよ。そろそろ人間狩りが始まるよ。なんでいい加減休憩しね。せっかく枯葉集めたんだから燃やして温まんないとさ。どうせ監視役は殿下しかいないんだしさ。なあ、焼きイカやろうぜ。焼きイカ。
For some reason, Kinomi was droning on about his squid. Sojiro had managed to withstand the barrage of complaints from his comrade, but even he was reaching his limit.
木の実、頼むから。
And just then, Sojiro saw the Grim Reaper himself creeping behind Kinomi. In his hand, he held a rake instead of a soft bamboo broom. Uh-oh.
いいぜ。お前がイカなんてもんを用意してるほどの大人物だってんなら、
A big man in
イカ
his
焼きぐらい
squid.
許可してやるよ。なんなら醤油はこっちで用意してやろ
Kinomi shot to attention at the voice behind them.
その物言い、築地なにがし。
The vice president is here. Before quickly turning around, swinging his broom in the process. Tobimaru easily blocked the swing with his rake.
う。ああ、てめえ、やる気十分じゃねえか。溢れる労働意欲を抑えきれないってわけ
Siberian
か。
trail.
なんならシベリアコースにでも行っちまうか。
女ども集めて焼却炉に陣取ってる野郎の言葉なんざ聞かねえよ。真冬に南国気分とかマジ寒いわ。
Both guys glanced at each other with a wry smile. Broom and rake locked in an embrace. Those two were only friendly with each other on school grounds.
飛び丸、一応彼は戦力なんだから邪魔しないでくれ。
Both of them scoffed angrily and put away their weapons. They both knew better than to argue with Sojiro, the only one cleaning with a garbage bag in hand. He has them on lock, man.
それで何しに来たんだ飛び丸。君はあったかい焼却炉の前で永遠に火の管理をすると豪語していたんじゃなかったっけ。
Harsh comment. Apparently even Sojiro had a slight taste for drama.
なんてこった。善良な生徒ですら俺をそんな目で見るのか。
Tobimaru seemed sad at Sojiro's observation. But as long as Tobimaru continued to claim he was helping the girls clean by doing nothing more than standing in front of a pile of burning leaves, Sojiro found it hard to sympathize.
いいから要件を言えよ。殿下と違って俺らは暇じゃねえんだ。
Yeah? Kinomi? Oh my god.
ああ、そうかよ。宗次郎、そろそろ小休止だ。向こうで温まろうよ。
お、なんだブレイクかよ。話せるじゃん殿下。
ああ、てめえは除外に決まってんだろ。特権は功労者にのみ与えられるもんだ。 焼却炉の前に来たけりゃそれ相応の貢ぎ物を持ってきやがれ。具体的に言うとリアカー1台分のゴミ袋な。
ひっで生徒会応募。
Kinomi's complaints naturally fell on deaf ears. Tobimaru had been selected to lead the cleaning operation, and his word was final. If Kinomi were to continue to push his buttons, he knew he would be on cleaning duty tomorrow and the next day too.
さあ行くぞ。誰の趣味か知らねえが、なぜかシルコの缶が山ほどあってな。中華まんの一つでもあった方が気が利くってもんなんだがね。
Oh, sounds good. What's up,
遭
Kev?
難用のチョコレートみたいなもんか。
Oh, sounds good.
あいつの考えは未だにわかんねえな。
Meat buns would have gone crazy though. Soju reassured Tobimaru by saying he thought the food would do just fine for everyone.
なんだよ。行かねえのか、宗次郎。
ああ、自分はここに残るよ。なんなら木の実の言うように葉を燃やせばいい。そこに池もある。火の始末なら安心だ。
This was clearly for Kinomi's benefit. Tobimaru furrowed his brow while Kinomi shivered from the cold.
俺は今友情ってもんを実感している。すげえな。真心って本当にあったんだ。くそ、待ってろしずき。今赤羽たちから芋を奪ってくる。
Not leaving any bros behind, Shizuki. I respected. Perhaps shy to show his true feelings, Kinomi ran off to the neighboring group.
な、予想はしてたけどな。ほらよ。
Tobimaru pulled out a hot can from his jersey pocket, scratching his head in exacerbation. He pulled out 3 in all. One from each jersey pocket and one from his pants pocket.
さっさと焚き火の用意をしようぜ。
Oh, look at him.
俺もこっちで休むことにするわ。
He was ready.
付き合いがいいのはお互い様だな。
Sojiro quickly prepared the leaves for the fire, carefully gathering them up for them to burn neatly.
慣れてるな。
マッチがあるから楽なんだ。
Sojiro crouched down in front of the burning leaves and warmed his hands near the flames. Even though he showed no signs of being cold underneath it all, Sojiro was cold too. He gazed into the fire as the smoke rose from the pile of leaves, as if remembering the good times from his past. Tobimaru felt a touch of concern as he looked at Sojiro. He saw within him homesickness and retrospection. He also saw a dark shadow looming over him, like a stranger in a foreign land without a home.
元気ねえな、宗次郎。
まあね、少し疲れてる。
悩み事なら相談に乗るぜ。気が向いたら話してくれ。
Damn, okay. Tobimaru continued speaking with a pull tab from the can of sweet red bean soup still around his index finger. Sojiro was focused on the fire.
そういえばな、お前が学校休んでる時、青崎に殴られたぜ。なんでも俺は大ボラ吹きだそうだ。
Yup, deserved. Absolutely deserved for that one.
すごいな。大抜擢じゃないか。
Sometimes Sojiro would reply incoherently like this. Tobimaru chalked it up to cultural differences.
なあ、青崎とはどうなってんだ？テスト前は駅まで一緒に帰ってただろ？うまくいってんのか、あれから。
It was obvious to everyone that that was far from the case, yet Tobimaru asked anyway.
ああ、今は一緒に住んでるよ。
Bro, you can't just drop that. Sojiro went with a truthful, blunt response.
ああ、そうか、一緒と来たか。
Tobimaru tried to laugh off Sojiro's all-too-casual confession, however.
一緒に住んでるぞ。
どうした飛び丸。火でも飛んだか？
飛んでねえし、それより怖え。おい、今の聞き捨てならねえたわごとは本当の話か？
Sojiro protested Tobimaru's reply with silence.
その余裕マジか？女に興味なさそうな顔しててやることやってんじゃねえかてめえ。
Well, it's actually 2, Tobimaru. It's actually not 1, it's 2. Tobimaru had always felt like he and Sojiro were an equal match strength-wise, but for some reason he could not shake the feeling that Sojiro was now his superior in the brain department. Sojiro cast a rare angry glare at Tobimaru's direction.
こっちこそ聞き捨てならない。なんだ、その女に興味はないってのは。
Sojiro seemed genuinely angry and his voice was icy. This uncharacteristic level of anger from Sojiro was enough to get Tobimaru to back down.
いや、悪い。そんな雰囲気あったんだよ、お前さんは。それは謝る。けどよ、青崎と一緒に住んでるってどういうことだ。いくらなんでも一足飛びすぎだろ。
別に君が期待しているようなことはない。彼女が住んでいるところの部屋を借りることになっただけだ。屋根の裏にある部屋なんだけど、板張りで山小屋を思い出すんで気に入ってる。
Tobimaru did not bat an eyelid at hearing that Sojiro now lived in an attic and continued his questioning.
屋敷ってあのクオンジの屋敷か。それこそまさかだぜ。宗十郎、お前一体どんな手品を使いやがった？
Bro, he went through a lot to get there, okay? He went through hell and back to get to that point.
飛び丸こそあの家を知ってるのか？
そりゃな。これでも築地家期待の跡取り候補だぜ、俺は。クオンジグループのご令嬢が住んでる屋敷ぐらいは知ってるさ。
Rain Girls Academy, yup.
霊園女学院の2年生だろ確か。
She's a sophomore, okay.
クオンジ何？
Sojiro was looking more confused than ever, so Tobimaru reluctantly explained everything as simply as he could so Sojiro could understand.
クオンジグループつうか財団だな。平たく言えば一族全部がお金持ちで仲良く会社を経営してる連中だと思えばいい。複合企業とまではいかないが輸出業じゃかなりのものだ。
Exports industry, okay.
ホームグラウンドは国外で先代の会長の英国びいきがたたって一時期は沈みかけてたんだが5年くらい前かね、本拠地をこっちに移してからはご存知の通りだ。
Oh, wait. So were they originally from Japan, then they moved to England for some time, and then that's where Alice was born as well, and then they came back to Japan, so they are originally a Japanese family, if I'm understanding this correctly. They moved their operations back here. Huh.
会長が息子に移ってからはきちんと持ち直して今や町の名士だろ。ここでもクオンジの名前はそこかしこで目に入る。この学校の立て直し予算の半分は連中からだしな。
Despite the oversimplified explanation, Sojiro still seemed to not be getting it. Oh my god. With that, Tobimaru decided to give up on trying to explain.
あれだ。想像もできない金持ちってこと。宗の字が働いてる喫茶店だってクオンジが向こうから持ってきたブランドだぜ。
Damn.
今じゃ全国チェーンになっちまったがな。
つまりすごく偉いんだね。おかしいな。ならなんであんなに倹約してるんだろう。
Sojiro mumbled incoherently to himself. Tobimaru looked at him with a complex expression on his face, somewhere between envy and heartfelt sympathy.
しかしうまいことやったな、宗十郎。それで本当のところはどうなんだ？男と女が同じ屋根の下にいればやることは一つだろ。
This guy.
案外古いな、飛び丸も。
Wow, call him out. Call him out. Jesus.
抜かせ。そのあたりをごまかしてたら男なんぞやってらんねえ。
そりゃごもっとも。実を言うと
Though Sojiro and Naoko were living together, there was absolutely no chemistry between them. But that was not to say that living in such close quarters as they did, unintended mishaps did not occur from time to time. But, even still...
驚くぐらいそういうことにはなってない。あの屋敷すごく広いし。
Everyone was often busy with their own affairs, so there was no opportunity for that sort of thing to happen.
そもそもだな。もし飛び丸だったら下宿先が同じってことだけで青崎に言い寄る気になるかい？
いや、ならねえな。
Man, Sonoji is actually speaking a bit more as a human now. That's actually crazy. Tumaru nodded intently, as if he was thinking back over his many ex-relationships.
いやー、健全だな。
ああ、健全だろ。
The Sojiro gave no more than a quick affirmation to Tobimaru's despondent murmur. He was doing fine, but besides his physical health, it was surely Sojiro's personality that enabled him to maintain any semblance of peace dealing with both Aoko and Alice while living in that mansion.
でもそれとは別の話で、青崎には頭が上がらないんだ。彼女にはもう返せない借りがあってさ。
Sojiro's eyes turned slightly serious, staring to the fire. Tobimaru felt that there was more to those words than what Sojiro was letting on.
もう返せない借りだ。
Sojiro merely nodded in silence at Tobimaru's inquisitive acknowledgement. And just then, a strange scream pierced through the still silence of the wood like a knife.
なんか聞こえたな。
No?
ああ、木の実だ。
Oh! Sojiro had already stood up before he responded. He bolted to the frozen pond, broke the ice with his broom, scooped up some of the frigid water in a bucket and threw it onto a fire, all in less than 10 seconds. Then he immediately ran off into the depths of the woods, where he heard a scream. Tobimaru followed after him in panicked confusion.
飛び丸、この先に何かあるのか？
確か旧校舎が残ってるはずだ。
Oh!
他には野犬の住処とかそういう嫌な話は？
はあ？いや、いるとしても鹿かウサギじゃねえか。
なら怖がることもないか。急ごう、飛び丸。
This talk of the abandoned school building and stuff reminds me of the Garden of Sinners movie 7, I think it was, the one at Rayan Academy. Perhaps because of his time spent growing up in the mountains, Sojiro quickly sprinted over to the slippery dead leaves. Tobimaru was not particularly cautious himself, but nevertheless he could not keep up with Sojiro in here. What's up, Toby? 6, that's it. Before long, Sojiro found himself running alone. When foliage blocked the natural trail, he would sometimes clear it away by brute force, but just as often, he would expertly weave through the brush. It was clear that he was used to dealing with this level of nature. After a few minutes, Sojiro arrived at a clearing. The wall of trees had ended. It was an obviously man-made clearing here in the mountainside. In the distance was what looked like an old wooden school building. It was a small, aesthetically pleasing building, no larger than an elementary school, lost in the depths of the winter wilderness.
木の実。
Hinami stood alone in the old school's grounds.
は？なんでしずきまで追いかけてきたん？
Huh? A sour expression came over Sojiro's face as Kinami tilted his head in confusion.
そっちこそどうしたんだ？変な声上げて。
声？いや、そりゃガキ相手に怒鳴ったけどよ。
Dumb kid.
ほら、あのガキだよ。芋持ってるだろ。であ、中に逃げ込みやがった。
Huh? Kinami pointed resentfully towards the old school building. There was indeed somebody standing at the entrance of the building, just over 300 feet in the distance.
たく、こんな上まで来やがって。いつから子供の遊び場になってんだ、ここ。
Kinami shrugged his shoulders to signal how little he cared what the young children did with their time. This place was deep in the woods, but it was not particularly dangerous. Sojiro had run through the woods to get here, but there was also a paved road leading to this spot from outside the woods too. Kinami apparently followed that road to get there, or to get here.
子供？
Yeah, what the hell? Sojiro squinted.
ああ、金髪なんでさっきはちょっと驚いたけどな。外国人の子供ってなんか怖いだろ？
He had blonde hair, which kind of freaked me out at first. Foreign kids are scary. Blonde hair. Blonde hair. It was indeed quite rare to see a foreigner in a provincial town such as Misaki. Sojiro had never seen a foreigner in person, which made the whole thing even more mysterious.
それで、木の実はなんでここまで？
It's Abby?
いや、赤羽たちがよ、ガキに食料奪われたって言うからここまで追いかけてきたんだ。そういうことだから、 二人がかりであのお子様とっちめよう
It's a
ぜ。
guy. Kid Gil? Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. That was my first thought.
怖いことを
It's
考
good,
える
Gil.
な、木の実は。
Sojo could not find it in him to agree with his plan. It seemed unfair to team up against a little kid.
いいから帰ろう。あの子こっちを睨んでるじゃないか。それに飛び丸にこんなところ見られたら、冬休み中ずっと山の掃除で終わることになるぞ。
Sojo took Kinomi by the shoulders and began leading him back to the path he came from. Kinomi cast one last gaze to the old school building before reluctantly following. And just then, Tobimaru appeared, panting and out of breath.
早いな、宗十郎。
Foreigner blonde. Yeah, it could be, a Voyager. Tobimaru could hardly catch his breath. He arrived about 3 minutes behind Sojiro, despite having a good set of legs on him.
それでどうした？木の実、無事か？
はあ、無事も何も殿下こそどったん。
Your Highness. Kinomi seemed perplexed at Tobimaru's first ever display of concern for him.
なんだそりゃ。てめえ、あれだけの大声を上げておいて、しらばっくれる気か？上で何かあったんだろうが。
すまない。こっちの早とちりだった。飛び丸は知らないだろうけど、木の実は時々、バイト先でも規制を上げる癖があるんだ。
Oh. Kinomi looked disapproving at Sojiro nonchalantly shared this insight. That was the first he had ever heard of it.
怪しいな。
Ah.
またよからぬことでも企んでるんじゃないか、
Okay, so it's trying to cover for it.
そこの。
ないよ。戻って掃除の続きをするぞ、飛び丸。
Sojiro pat Tobimaru on the shoulder a couple of times and started walking. Tobimaru cast a doubtful glance in his direction as he meandered off. He had a feeling that Sojiro was covering for Kinomi somehow.
まさか、旧校舎に火なんてつけてないだろうな。
誰もしないよ、そんなことは。
Ooh. Sojiro kept walking and did not even look back at Tobimaru as he spoke. Tobimaru and Kinomi tilted their heads in confusion as they reluctantly followed the unusually aggressive Sojiro back to the cleaning spot. And so, the special winter cleaning team's activities ended uneventfully. The time was 3 in the afternoon. Upon departing, Kinomi and his crew invited Sojiro to come hang with them, but he declined politely due to his job that evening. He had about 2 hours until his shift began. Not quite enough time to do anything fun, but just enough time to have to fill it with something. Sojiro thought about relaxing in a park somewhere, but quickly changed his mind after remembering how cold it was, even in the city. Not to forget that Aoko handed him those pills in the morning. Aoko was absolutely correct in her prediction. Heading back to the mansion now would just be a waste of time. There was no reason for him to return to the mansion until after his shift at work. Still, Sojiro found himself on the way back anyway. Having grown up deep in the mountains, a little 2-hour walk was really no sweat off his back. Misaki was one of the more quiet residential areas in Misaki City. The only thing that really stood out here was Shiroinuzuka. It was a hill that led directly into the woods. The silhouette of the mountains served as backdrop to suburbia, silently overshadowing the small human actions of the people who lived here. Even in this modern day of technological progress, the people were always careful to pay reverence to the nature around them. If that mansion were a shrine, it would not be a haunted house but a famous tourist attraction.
というより、今更気づいたけど。
The houses around Shiroinuzuka were all magnificent. Sojiro understood as he looked from the bottom of this hill where the rest of the town lived at the roof of the mansion tucked away at the woods. He understood what Tobimaru was talking about how the Kuonji family who owned the mansion might be the richest people in
その割
town.
に家賃を取るところを見ると、やっぱり嫌われていると見るべきか。
Sojiro began walking towards the mansion with such thoughts simmering in his mind. The feeling of the hard asphalt beneath his feet instead of soft dirt felt lonely and isolating. He walked along the paved road for 10 minutes or so before reaching the iron fence of the wood. Beyond this fence was the private property of the Kumari family. It was bereft of any awkward no trespassing signs. The tall, overbearing iron fence was more than enough to remind visitors that they were unwelcome here. Sojiro casually pushed on the iron gate. Only 2 days had passed since the end of the final exams, and he already seemed more than comfortable with the idea of entering this wood alone. The path to the mansion from inside the wood curved and bent like a snake. Wood. Is that a correct way to spell it? Isn't it the woods? Isn't it a plural noun? Or, yeah, noun. Anyways. It took about 15 minutes to reach the mansion on this path. He could have chosen to ignore the long incline and travel in a straight line through the wood, but he would have expended significantly more energy in doing so. No, using the wooden path was the sensible option, barring an emergency. Upon entering the foyer, Sojiro heard a conversation coming from the drawing room. It was no doubt Aoko and Alice. Sojiro decided to join them. Ever since the final exams had ended, Aoko and Alice had switched from their daily routine to a more irregular schedule. Aoko would disappear into Alice's room in the west wing of the mansion for a while, where she would remain. And Alice would go into Aoko's room, not to be seen again. What? Or they would vanish into the corridors leading around to the rear of the mansion, doing who knows what, where Sojiro was most certainly not allowed to enter. Not that he was interested in what they were doing, since Aoko and Alice did not seem to want to include them either, serving both parties nicely. We're not getting anything from, like, Aoko's POV recently, so they're definitely building something up. For the time being, the Kumari estate was pretty peaceful.
Tadaima.
Sojiro quietly opened the door to the drawing room. Even though they tried not to be involved in each other's business, Sojiro made it a habit to greet them. The two girls sat across from him on the sofa. On the table in front of them was a large, extravagantly decorated mirror. Aoko was dressed for comfort, wearing jeans instead of her usual skirt. In stark contrast, Alice was dressed in her usual all black. Even though the break from school was well underway, the witch still insisted on wearing black. As Aoko had explained, it was probably because it was too much effort for Alice to wear anything else. Sojiro's thought was that he would like to see her wear something different. That would be cool! I can't wait for her different ascensions. Aoko and Alice seemed to be in the middle of some sort of dispute. The air in the drawing room was tense. They both ignored his greeting. Alice only briefly looked at him.
じゃあ東川の視点は
Important
あ
camera
そこの
angles.
柱は白色だし、そう簡単には奪われないでしょ。
ええ。今のところ東川は侵食されていないけど、一つ隣の鈴穂の視点が消された以上、楽観はできないわ。
Each
残り
sigil
の
was
割り出し
covered.
は今までより早くなる。
そっか。一個釣れれば、あとは芋づる式だもんね。反省したわ。甘く見てたのはこっちの方だった。ここからは1週間単位の攻防になるわね。
The two continued their heated discussion from opposite sides of the table. Aoko neglected to even glance up at Sojiro. Sojiro sensed that she wanted to concentrate on the discussion at hand.
でも解せないな。あの夜に人形を出してくるタイミングといい、隠し方だけは一級品なうちの視点を短期間で特定することといい、こいつまず間違いなく市内にアジトを敷いてるわよね。
Here we go.
なのになんで結界に異常がないんだろう。三崎市一帯の索敵網はもう100年近く破られたことがないのに。
Aoko bit her nails nervously while Alice nodded along. It seemed as though she was wondering the same thing.
母もここの結界には触れなかった。美咲の結界をかいくぐるにはあなたのおじいさんかそれ以上の技量を持つ魔術師でないと難しい。
Okay.
けどそれほどの魔術師なら逆に気配は隠しきれない。
Even my mother wasn't able to touch this bounded field. Wow, her grandpa must have been nasty with it. I guess it makes sense since she has ties to true magic, so he must have been nasty, but crazy. Okay.
何か特殊な音響法かもしれないわね。ここ数年、新しいサークルの話は聞かないけど。
何？シャーウッドの森？メイキングなら以前アリスの霧が粉砕したじゃない。あれ以上の音響があるっていうの？
例えばの話よ。今回の相手はこちら以上の技量を持っているか、こちらの知らない技術を持っているか。どちらにせよ評価を改めるべきね。私たち気づかないうちに追い詰められているのかも。
The two fell silent. Sojiro, after some internal deliberation, decided to break the silence.
やあ、ただいま。
Aoko finally looked up at him in response to his hesitant declaration.
いいからお風呂に入ってきたら。汚れてるわよ、宗十郎。
And with that, Aoko returned her gaze to the mirror. Alice briefly looked at Sojiro again before also returning her gaze to the mirror. Alice. Perhaps feeling at least somewhat satisfied that his greeting was acknowledged, Sojiro left the drawing room and closed the door behind him. Aoko was right. His clothes were a little soiled.
そうだな。もったいないけど、確かに。
Sojiro returned to his room, thinking that a bath might actually feel pretty nice in the cold weather, despite not actually having broken a sweat at all during the day. He climbed the stairs from the foyer and up to the second flight into the attic. Unlike the other rooms in the mansion, this one had no frills to its decor. It was a little cumbersome to use as a living space, but comfortable enough for Sojiro. Everywhere else in the mansion was a little too gaudy for his tastes. As far as the shelter and a place to sleep went, Sojiro was more than satisfied with his accommodations. There was no electricity in the attic. The only light was that which crept in from a small skylight. Now that Sojiro minded, he was more accustomed to living without electricity than living with it. With only the faint light to guide him, he readied a change of clothes and a towel before heading down to the foyer. Despite the magnificent size of the mansion, there was only one bath in the whole building, and not a particularly large one at that. Whoever the architect was, he or she must not have thought a bath to be so important, or perhaps they were not the bath type. Yo, are we getting a bath scene? Sojiro descended to the foyer and made his way back to the back of the stairs. He knocked on the door to the bath. As expected, there was no answer from the other side. The only other two occupants of the mansion were still talking in the drawing room. After confirming it was unoccupied, Sojiro quietly entered the bathroom. Even though Sojiro was not aware of it himself, as was common for him, the only hobby he had acquired since coming down from the mountain was taking a nice, relaxing bath. Okay? Sojiro had left, but the two girls were still locked in their heated discussion. Oh, needless to say, the topic of their conversation was still that of the outside mage, who had appeared in Misaki City last month. This was, after all, the problem that had occupied their time before this whole situation with Sojiro arose, dealing with and eliminating the interloper who had set his or her sights on their territory.
今まではおとりにばっかり食いついてたから甘く見てたけど、それも計算づくだったのかしらね。こっちが油断してる隙に本命を一つ奪われた。この相手との戦いはこれからが本番ってことか。
The situation was growing more dire by the day. Oh, until only a couple of days ago, the enemy had limited themselves to small skirmishes, but now they had shifted to a full-on offensive. Aoko had two major bounded fields she used for defense. One, the larger of the two, was placed around Misaki City to detect magical energy in Magecraft. This was used to observe and monitor visitors from outside the city, and was initially set up by Aozaki's ancestors, the administrators of this territory, and had no way to be removed. The other was set up to energize and manage ley lines from within the territory. The 5 sigils carved into the earth made up a standard square-type array, protecting all that lay within its bounds. After some manipulating of the mana flow, the power within was directed to accumulate at the Kuonji estate. That is to say, the bounded field existed to monopolize the magical energy within Misaki City. There were 5 sigils in total, with the Kuonji estate located in the center. If all 5 sigils were forcibly removed, Aoko's jurisdiction over this territory would be in title only. Without the power of the land to back them up, they would be forced to fight back against their invaders on equal ground, with only their own innate abilities to protect them. Okay. The only reason Alice and the inexperienced Aoko were able to defend this territory so far was because of these 2 fields. The Dragnet that notified Aozaki of any threats was also her lifeline. But this time, their enemy had somehow slipped through the cracks and was running rampant. This is what the girls had to face up to.
どちらにせよ時間の問題ね。視点がすべて潰されたら、いよいよここでの籠城になるけど。いいの？青子。
ん？別にいいんじゃないの？アリスの言う通り、残りの視点を消されるのは時間の問題なんだし。そりゃ敵のアジトを発見できれば同じだけど、それは絶対必要ってわけでもないでしょ？視点を消されても、私にはあんまり関係ないし。何より、館の守りはあんたがいる限り万全だしね。あっちの方からやってきてくれるなら、それこそ飛んで火にいるよ。他に心配事なんてないでしょ？
そうね。敵が一人だけなら、その時は鏡の範囲をここに集中させて戦場にすればいい。私たちにとってその方が有利だったわ。
God, Hana Kanazawa, man. Or Kana Kanazawa. Alice touched the mirror on the table with her pale fingers. What's up, Ignacio? The surface of the mirror rippled like water. The mirror was another protector of Misaki City, separate from Aozaki's bounded fields. More accurately, it was a ploy that existed only to protect Alice Kuonji rather than Misaki City itself. It generated a thick fog and acted as an invitation to any visitors, drawing them in to its board game-like world. Oh. Alice referred to it as the mirror, but it was known to her friends as the Mirror of Slumber. This was a magecraft that Alice Kuonji wielded. Within the rippling surface of the mirror, an image of a castle began to form, and also a lush forest, a field, and a river. Aoko stared at the mirror in silence, before suddenly jumping to her feet off the sofa.
そうと決まれば、あとは行動あるのみね。出かけるわよ、アリス。とにかく現場を見ないことには始まらない。
Alice let out a tired sigh in response to Aoko's determination, then gave the mirror a gentle caress. The sound of rippling water filled the room. The mirror began to consume the table in a thick fog with a single caress from Alice.
順番に回るのなら、帰るのは朝になるわね。
Good luck on the exam, Ignacio. Good luck, good luck. Have a good one. You got this.
まあまあ、そう億劫がらないで。ところでアリス、火の五芒星の退去ってこうだっけ？
A fire pentagram banishment. Aoko traced a shape in the air with her fingers. She mined a star shape starting from the bottom, starting from the top, moving down and to the right, down to the right, to the upper left, and so on. Okay.
そろそろ壊すこと以外も覚えないとダメよ、青子。
Alice sat up from the sofas, letting out a heavy sigh. They both took their coats from the hangers and left the drawing room.
失礼ね。私だって日々成長してるわよ。この間のおまじないだってちゃんと成功したんだから。
おまじない？
簡単な暗示の呪文。ほら、アリスが教えてくれた軽く弱く、うまく早く、チクタクチクタク、急げや急げってやつ。
それ、本当？
ほんともほんと。後で総重量に聞いてみなさい。
Alice swallowed her words, clearly displeased. She likely stopped herself in time to realize it was not worth the effort to take issue with it.
けど留守中その彼はどうするの？
大丈夫でしょう。アリスの西館と開かずの間に入らなきゃ即死するようなことは。
Aoko responded hastily as she opened the door to the foyer. As soon as she did, just as quickly as Alice's doubts had gotten stuck in her throat, Aoko suddenly froze, unable to speak. Uh-oh, what happened? Oh shit! Oh my god, wait.
ですって。
For a moment, Aoko wasn't sure who was standing before her. She could only stare at the glinting rays of sunlight creeping into the room as she reeled from the shock. Her mind was completely blank. It was as if she had just woken up from a nap, or a jack-in-the-box had just opened in her face. Soju was probably the only person who truly knew how long the dumbfounded silence went on.
あんた、こんなところで何してるのよ、一体。
Aoko had finally found her voice.
何って着替えてるんだけど。
I'm looking at the scars. Damn, bro has the mountain boy physique. It's 0% fat. Okay. He does have a bit of a scar on his arm, but that's about all that we can see from here. And obviously the bandages. And Soju's response was matter of fact. He offered no explanation as to why he was changing in the foyer and not the bathroom. Aoko was too shocked to read them. Wait, what? Wait, let me see something.
何って着替えてるんだ。
あんた、こんなところで。
Oh, okay, Alice is just...
何って。
Okay. Aoko was too shocked to read them that I attacked. Sojo was putting a shirt on after presumably just getting out of the bath. His neck was wrapped in bandages, and he was completely shirtless. His hair was wet, but his skin wasn't glistening from the steam of hot water. He must have washed himself with nothing more than cold water. Though shocked as to why anyone would do such a thing in this cold weather, she let it slide. The source of her silent stupor was simply his body. Until now, she'd only seen him as harmless. Without his clothing to hide him, however, he was more fit than she had ever imagined. For a rough mountain upbringing where one's body and strength meant survival, perhaps he was even a bit underdeveloped. That's what I was thinking. It's not like he has a lot of muscle, it's just that he has a very low fat, right? He's very lean. He has the necessary muscles, though. On top of that.
それ、傷跡なの？
Aoko asked cautiously. Sojiro followed her gaze. He had something that looked like a burn scar on his arm. It was random in appearance, nothing like Aoko's Magecraft with its ordered patterns.
ああ、これか。ずいぶん前に野犬の群れに襲われて噛みつかれたんだ。命があっただけでも幸運だから、傷跡ぐらいはご愛嬌だ。
Okay. A long time ago, he must be talking about when he was a child. Though his life was saved, it was apparent that he hadn't been able to receive proper treatment deep in the mountains where he lived. And those scars are proof of that. Considering it had happened so many years ago, it was likely they would never fade. If only for an instant, Aoko thought the wild scars left on his skin suited his lean body perfectly.
確かに、あまり気持ちのいいものじゃないな。自分の部屋で着替えるべきだった。
Sojo sounded slightly ashamed as he put on his shirt, looking at Aoko standing there in cold silence. The two girls had no response. Sojo headed for the stairs to go back to his room.
ちょっと待って、宗十郎。
Sojo stopped and turned around.
なんていうか。
Aoko looked away awkwardly, apparently not knowing why she stopped herself.
なんか青崎らしくない。さっきから変だけど、熱でもあるんじゃないのか？あれから満足に寝てないだろう、二人とも。
He was, of course, referring to the final exams. From Sojo's perspective, the amount of work Aoko put in seems strange.
熱なんてないったら。そうじゃなくて、どうしてこんなところで着替えてたの
Yeah,
よ、あん
exactly.
た
Why
は。
didn't you change your clothes in the bathroom? Aoko was doing her best to keep up appearances. But for some reason, Sojo was hesitant to say too much more.
それは言いづらいんだが、下着の管理はきちんとした方がいいと思う。どっちだかは知らないけど。
What? Alice, who had been completely silent behind Aoko, couldn't resist responding to that statement. Although she hadn't wanted to get involved, this was something she couldn't ignore.
言っておくけど、それは青子だから。
Throw her under the bus. Alice's response was quick and to the point.
洗濯の当番は確かに私だったけど。
Aoko seemed like she was just holding back on going critical.
とにかく、もうすぐアルバイトだから着替えてくる。
Sensing that those two were probably about to get into an argument, Sojo took his chance to leave. Nice perception. And with that, Sojo basically left the scene.
アリス。
とりあえず、片付けてくるわ。
Alice calmly walking to the bath. She's such a rage baiter. She's such an S-tier rage baiter. Alice calmly walking to the bathroom. A few minutes later, just as the two were about to head out and fulfill their duties as mages, Aoko remembered something she wanted to
そうだ、
ask.
アリス。傷ってあれのこと？
あれは傷跡じゃないわ。だって、あんなにも誇らしいもの。
Aoko agreed. What impressed her the most about those scars was how he treated them simply as a part of his past, absent of any regret. Aoko wouldn't have gone so far as to say he was proud, but it seemed her instincts had been correct. That and one more thing.
でも一つだけはっきりしたわ。それじゃあ、不覚にも見惚れてたのは私一人じゃなかったってことよね。
Yeah?
アリス。
Yeah? Aoko smiled wryly at Alice, like a child who knew they were doing something they shouldn't with their friend. Alice was trying to ignore her as best as she could. She looked away without saying a word. Aoko let out a satisfied snicker and began walking towards the front door.
じゃ、行こうか。
These two.
まずはあの公園からでいいでしょ。今回の件は、あそこから全てが始まったわけだし。
She was talking about the local park in Misaki. The place where they had to run into the enemy puppets and, of course, where their involvement with Sojiro had all begun. Early the next morning. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. Most people were still in their beds sleeping. Although some 24-hour convenience stores had opened last year, Misaki Town was still very much living in the good old days of the early 80s. Even the tofu shop in the shopping district, known for opening earlier than anywhere else, didn't open until 6. But this was the late 80s, during the later half of Japan's bubble economy. It was a time when metropolitan areas never slept. Those in the countryside, however, remained in the past. The homes were blanketed in silence, the streets were empty of commuters, and not a single automobile could be heard. The sun was just barely peeking over the horizon. The town would still be asleep for at least an hour longer before it began waking up. It was during this time that someone stepped into the Kuonji estate. Sojiro was working the late shift during winter vacation and had just come home. What? He moved quietly to the drawing room so he would not wake up Aoko and Alice, who were presumably still asleep. The Kuonji estate had a few established rules. One of those rules forbade more Japanese tea. This new rule had only come into effect 3 days prior. It was proposed after Alice saw Sojiro drinking green tea in the kitchen after dinner one night. Okay. Looking back on it, the decision had been made rather abruptly. That single gasp of surprise was all Alice said. She grasped her head as if she was battling the most vicious of migraines, called for Aoko, and then made a decision to ban all Japanese teas from this mansion. What? By some miracle, Aoko managed to negotiate and keep Sojiro's privileges to barley tea during the summer.
だいたいイギリス産だって初めはグリーンティーが主流だったじゃない。
Aoko had clearly hit a nerve with this argument. Aoko stared at Alice, fairly certain why she was so taken aback by Sojiro's actions.
そこまで嫌がらなくてもな。お茶は何だって美味しいのに。
Sojiro grumbled to himself while sipping his hot green tea. He didn't realize that Alice was upset because he had poured his green tea into a teacup meant for black tea. What do you mean? Oh my. In Sojiro's defense, and this was the only teacup that Alice had given him permission to use. Bro? At any rate, the early morning was his to enjoy. This was his moment to relax with a Japanese tea set he'd smuggled in. You only allow him to use one teacup? And then you get upset when he uses it? He didn't use this time to read books or watch TV. He just drank his tea and gazed fondly at the garden, or rather, the dense woods outside. Sojiro simply sat, relaxed, and let his mind wander. About an hour passed. Just as he was beginning to feel refreshed, he heard sounds coming from the foyer. He knew it was Aoko and Alice talking, so he rushed to hide his teapot, and tea leaves in the kitchen. Hiding the contraband was easy enough, considering just how many unused shelves there were in the kitchen. Sojiro was perturbed by how they wasted the potential of such a splendid kitchen.
あら、早いのね、宗十郎。
Aoko spoke as she took off her white down jacket. They just came back? At like 6 a.m.? Next to her, Alice silently took off her black coat. I guess Aoko did say it's gonna take them all night.
天城浜の食品工場に深夜のパートで入ることになって、その帰り。
Sojiro stuck his head out from the kitchen and gestured that he was about to put some water to boil. Alice tilted her head slightly at him. Uh-oh. It wasn't that she thought his gesturing was funny or anything like that. Uh-oh.
天城浜から。
Alice glanced up at the clock in the drawing room, and the expression darkened.
どうしたの、アリス。
Aoko asked this from her comfortable seat on the sofa.
別に。
Alice responded indifferently before finally sitting down as well.
宗十郎、砂糖は一杯だけだからね。
Aoko yelled her matter of course request into the kitchen. Sojiro didn't respond, but it was an affirmative silence. This was the result of 2 entire nights worth of cramming that Alice knew nothing about.
アリスは？
私はミルクだけでいいけど。
Alice responded out of obligation.
了解、ミルクティーだね。
Just don't do like green tea with milk or some bullshit like that. Or like fruit tea with milk. I can see him doing that. For some reason, Sojiro dutifully answered Alice's request.
ま、いいけど、いちいち突っ込んでたらキリがないし。それより珍しいじゃない。アリスがティーバッグのお茶飲むなんて。
今日は疲れたから、たまには。
It seems she had allowed herself to accept another's kindness, at least for today.
ま、いいか。それより宗十郎。あんた、さっきお菓子のこと言わなかった？
え？別に言ってないぞ、そんなこと。
そう？ならいいんだけど。
The two were conversing over a distance of 4 yards. Alice decided to add her opinion to the conversation.
しずきくんがおかしなことを言わない日はないと思うわ、私。
Her quiet tone was luckily just low enough that Sojiro couldn't hear her from the kitchen.
そりゃそうだけど、今ちょっと変だったでしょ？いや、何が引っかかったのかまではわからないんだけどさ。
そうね。会話自体は普通だったけれど、内容を考えてみると。
Oh, sorry. Fuck. Aoko became gradually more irritated as she failed to grasp what had been all about the conversation. Failed to grasp. Just then, Sojiro appeared holding a tray with a teacup for each of them.
何を話してるんだ？単に新しいアルバイトを始めただけだろ。
He put all the cups down on the black table without making even the slightest sound. Alice couldn't complain about how proper his job as a waiter had made him. Well, she didn't say anything out loud. She did nod in his direction to show some gratitude. Aoko, however,
天城浜だっけ？あそこってスタジアムがあるところでしょ？ツアーの会場になるから時々行くけど。
when a band I like is on tour. Okay. The Sunkasa peasant, a supposed model student, loved rock bands. Okay, kinda based. Aoko was secretly obsessed with a number of bands that used to travel way out of town, just to see them perform live when she was in middle school. Of course, this was a world that Sojiro was far from familiar with.
それよりまた新しいバイト始めたんだ。そんなに働いてどうする気なのよ、宗十郎は。
ああ、よく聞いてくれたね。
I'm glad you asked.
本人の名誉のために名前は伏せるけど、誰かさんと誰かさんが俺の少ない収入を無慈悲に奪っていくから、働き先を増やしたんだ。
Wow, he's got some bite. This is as much resistance as Sojiro was able to give. Aoko lifted her teacup to her mouth as if she was completely oblivious to Sojiro's monologue.
それは大変ね。
Alice said this as she set her teacup down quietly. She's such a rage baiter. There were some things she just did not understand. Aoko had to hold back her laughter as she looked at Alice and Sojiro.
言った自分が未熟だった。
Sojiro shoulders first, he said this. He took a sip of his black tea, still unsure about the taste.
まあ、アルバイトが多いって分かってくれるだけでいいか。そういったわけだから、冬休み中は夜も留守にする。例の薬はアルバイト先で飲むしかないんだけど。
ああ、それなら心配いらないわ。もうあれはやめたから。
Oh.
いちいち作るのも面倒だし、もっとしずきくんに似合うのを見つけてきたの。
Uh-oh. Aoko had a huge ominous grin on her face. She put her hand to her jacket pocket and pulled out a little paper bag. It was a small circular object about 20 inches in diameter, wrapped up nicely like a present. 20 inches in diameter?
はい、これは入居祝い。これからはそれをつけておくのよ、宗十郎。
The soldier opened the paper bag. Inside was a white belt. But it wasn't a belt for putting around your waist or to keep your pants up. To put it as clearly as possible, it was a collar? Bruh?
青子。
Even Alice is like, bro? Bro? Alice's expression darkened at this turn of events. But it wasn't clear whether it was her friend's insidiousness or sympathy for Sojiro that concerned her.
どう？気に入った？
Hello? Aoko was clearly a little crazy. At least she wasn't totally serious. It was obvious there was at least half a prank to just see how Sojiro would react. But Sojiro was solemnly considering the collar he had been just given.
意味はつかみかねるけど、こういうものを人からもらうのはこれが初めてだ。
He actually sounded like he would be happy. This would be a happy memory for him. Alice narrowed her eyes at what was transpiring.
けど、これは何に使うんだ？
簡単よ。金庫寺と同じで、飼い犬が主人に逆らうと首を絞めるの。あっちは頭につけてたけど、それよりは首のがマシでしょ？
Journey to the West Mansion! Woo! Wukong! Bro, that's crazy. That's crazy. Sojiro grimaced when he finally understood Aoko's mean-spirited gift. He really wanted to ask her what kind of person comes up with such an evil idea.
つまり、秘密をばらしたり逆らったりしたら首が締まると。
Sanzang mentioned.
やっぱり熱でもあるんじゃないのか、青崎は。
首輪は嫌？せっかく総十郎に似合いそうなものを見つけたの
That's
に。
crazy. Aoko still had an evil grin on her face. But Sojiro had a surprising response to this gift that Aoko had clearly gotten as a prank.
それもそうか。毎日毒を飲むよりはマシだし、このベルト自体いいものだし。うん、気に入った。ありがとう、青崎。
You can't beat him. You can't beat him. He spoke 100% truthfully. Aoko's face contorted in disbelief, and she could only mumble if he was serious.
人の行為はどんなものだって嬉しいよ。それに、それが青崎ならなおさらだ。
Crazy. And with that, Sojiro put the belt around his neck. Look at Alice's face. She's like, what the fuck are you two doing? He placed it over the benches over there.
こんな感じかな。きついけどそのうち慣れるだろう。
Oh god. Despite his words to the contrary, Sojiro tightened the belt uncomfortably and adjusted it. It was such a perverse scene that even Aoko's face was red as a beet, even though this had all been her idea. Perhaps it was because it gave her such a clear reminder of the scars that she had seen the day before.
よし。止め方はこれでいいのか。
That's wild. You can't go out with this, man. Ain't no way you're going out into public with this. Aoko retreated guilty as Sojiro came closer to her to check the fit of his new collar.
黙ってちゃわからないのに。いいよ。アリスに聞くから。
Sojiro shifted his gaze from Aoko to Alice. Alice stared intently at Sojiro wearing his new collar and said,
ロックね。青子、趣味に走りすぎよ。
She could not have put it any more bluntly.
いや、やかましい。そんなんじゃない。
やかましい。
もういい。とにかくそういうことよ。これからはその首輪が薬の代わりよ。せいぜい秘密を守ることね。
That's wild. Aoko was oddly emphatic as she spoke before stumping off towards the hallway.
それと、
やかましい。
これからお昼まで仮眠を取るけど、くだらないことで起こしたら殺すから。
Ma'am, you gave him this. Why are you mad at it? Ma'am? Aoko slammed the door behind her as she left the drawing room. Oh, crazy. Sojiro stared in amazement.
なんで青崎はいつもいきなり怒るんだろ
The bandages under that collar are slowly gonna actually become bondages, I swear. He murmured to himself, forgetting that Alice was standing right there in front of him.
しずきくんには悪意が通じないからでしょう。気にする必要はないわ。
う。悪意って今のが
Alice looked up at Sojiro's innocent response. There was a glimmer in her eye that showed surprise at her current actions.
なんでもないから気にしないで。
With a terse reply, she returned to her usual expressionless self. There was no use explaining Aoko's feelings. Aoko bought that collar for the sole role of annoying Sojiro and causing mischief. When things didn't turn out how she planned, her conscience got the better of her. Sojiro mistakenly thought that Aoko was angry at him when in reality she was only angry at herself. Alice didn't bother telling Sojiro all these heartwarming details though. Of course she wouldn't. Not because it was too much work, just because she was never one to have meaningless conversation. And that's how she had been raised.
しずきくんはこれからどうするの？
Alice suddenly changed the topic. Sojiro thought for a while before replying.
夕方までゆっくりするよ。ここのところ忙しすぎた。せっかくだからテレビも見ていたいし、お昼には青崎を起こさないといけないだろ。
そう。なら静かにしていて。
Alice let out a gentle sigh and rose to her feet. Just keep it quiet. Sojo will understand exactly what she meant by those words in just a few minutes. The sun shining through the window was bright. It was just about 9 o'clock, about time for the morning television programs to get going. Bro, how do you still... when do you sleep, my guy? Do you just not sleep? Sojo was sitting on the sofa, staring out of the window at the scene outside. The view from the neighboring sunroom showed a courtyard in a state of disrepair. Sojiro could appreciate the outdoors in both its natural wild state and when tamed by human hands.
あれは近いうちに何とかせねばなるまい。
Sojiro muttered to himself, turning another page in his textbook. On the table before him was a mathematics textbook on a notebook with Aoka's name on it, and a notebook. I see. A wild pack of dogs can find you. Guess to pay red. Although at first glance he appeared to be a diligent student studying on his day off, he was in truth only doing so as a compromise. Bro's gonna die in like his mid-30s. He sleeps like 2 hours a day. He had given up on his main intent of watching the morning television shows. The reason why he gave up was simple. He was being considerate of Alice, who sat in front of him with her nose buried in a book. Instead of holding herself up in her room, she brought out her old dusty books to read. This was what she meant when she had said to keep quiet. Sojiro found it difficult to turn on the TV.
とりあえずしばらくテレビは控えよう。
With that decided, Sojiro resigned himself to reviewing some of the practice problems he'd gotten wrong. In the drawing room, for some reason, there wasn't any particular purpose in doing it here, but he also had no reason to study back up in his room. And so there he was, leisurely highlighting his textbook with Alice there in the same room. To Sojiro, there really was no difference between his room in the attic and the drawing room with Alice. To be fair, he could probably live with the tiger as long as it didn't cause him any trouble. And that was both Sojiro's biggest strength and his biggest weakness. Before he knew it, the clock was showing 11. He'd spent 2 hours doing his math problems, but wasn't even halfway finished. More than that, he was disappointed in himself for lacking the courage to speak up at all.
それに比べて青崎は頑張ってる。
He dropped his mechanical pencil onto the notebook and watched it roll away. He knew that Aoko and Alice were busy with something since final exams had ended. He also knew that she had hardly gotten any sleep recently. If she had been able to ignore them during exams, she probably would have an easier time. Today's nap was probably the first proper sleep Aoko had gotten in days. Though she showed no signs of exhaustion, despite the fact that she must have hit peak long ago. She always seemed ready to go. It wasn't that she was trying to act tough. That was just the kind of person she was. Always positive, always tough as nails. And that's exactly why she came off completely irrational at times. But if that was the case, you could probably describe Alice in exactly the same way. Sojiro couldn't help but feel a bit inadequate when he saw their single-minded focus on their goals. He'd been so preoccupied with adjusting to his new life that he'd neglected to think about what he was going to do with himself after. Thinking about this cast a gloomy cloud over his heart. He felt like he'd never find a clear purpose in life like Aoko and Alice seemed to have. At least not since he'd left the mountains. His old life was gone now, never to return. He was like a kite cut from its string, destined to fly only where the winds took it. And without anything to ground him, he couldn't do anything about the empty future that lay ahead. He could only let himself fly where the currents took him, slowly losing sight of the ground below.
そうだな。便利なものは溢れているけど、本当に望むものは。
The town was full of options, but he couldn't find anything. He'd ask himself the same questions time and time again. It never made him feel any better. If anything, it only made him feel worse and worse. That, or maybe he felt that lamenting his own ineptitude would lead to finding some kind of goal or desire someday. Tired of his own sniveling, Soldier dejectedly closed his notebook. When he looked up, he saw his own face reflected back at him in the TV screen. His new collar was there around his neck, looking as out of place as ever. Perhaps a fool like him felt weak when faced with others' strengths. Wait, a fool like him who felt weak when faced with other strengths did need to wear a collar after all.
まったくだ。悩むのは一丁前になってから。
He shook off his thoughts of doom and gloom and sat up straight. After psyching himself up a little, he stood up from the sofa.
よし。何か作るけど、アリスは
Sojiro asked casually. While Sojiro had been doing his own thing, he had remained mindful of Alice. Alice looked up, surprised at hearing her name. She had completely forgotten Sojiro was even there.
私
ああ。アリス、朝から紅茶しか飲んでないだろ。どうせ作るなら、いっぱい作った方がお得なんだ。
Naturally. Without waiting for her reply, Sojiro headed off to the kitchen while putting on his apron. Alice tried to wave him to stop, but by then he'd already disappeared into the kitchen. She was hesitant to walk all the way in there just to tell him she didn't need anything. And besides, she was actually hungry. Sojiro's proposal made sense, and her empty stomach agreed. There's no reason to deny it, there's no reason to say no, to decline it. Alice was hungry, and Sojiro was going to make lunch. Making lunch for both of them would save the time and trouble of cooking two separate meals. There was no logical reason for Alice to refuse his gesture. She decided to stay quiet and tacitly accept his offer.
変な人
Aw. She whispered the word softly, not for anyone in particular to hear but herself. The truth was, however, Alice had been in a bad mood all morning. After checking all the sigils around Misaki City and boarding the first train back to Tokawa, all she wanted to do was spend the rest of her day reading until the words turned into a jumble. Her iron resolve to complete this task would not be interrupted by someone else milling about in the drawing room. This was her mansion, and there was no way she was going to lock herself up in her room on account of Sojiro. However, with that said, she knew it would be wrong to kick Sojiro out for no real reason. As it stood, Sojiro had actually kept quiet like she'd asked. He wasn't in the wrong here. If Alice had really wanted to be alone, she should have gone to her room.
静かにしてじゃなくて一人にさせてと言うべきだった
Alice had defiantly stayed in the drawing room despite realizing the dilemma she'd put herself in. She had figured Sojiro would eventually make a ruckus and run off to hide in his attic room. Her assumption could not have been more wrong. Sojiro never left the drawing room. Moreover, she had actually stopped caring that he was there. Though he hadn't paid her any attention, she hadn't ignored her either. He hadn't ignored her either. They had simply sat in silence together without any awkwardness. Alice felt the freedom of being alone along with the comfort of someone being by her side. To put it into words, Sojiro was just that kind of person. And that's probably the only reason Alice had been able to sleep so soundly with him there next to her. Sojiro continued cooking in the kitchen, oblivious to the thoughts that went through Alice's head. She couldn't see him from the drawing room, but she could easily imagine him cooking in the kitchen.
変な人ね
Alice resumed reading after unwittingly stating her feelings out loud the second time. The sunlight beaming into the drawing room showed that it was noon. The sunlight actually looked warm, despite it being a cloudy winter day. Just as noon struck, Sojiro returned to the drawing room with two sets of plates. Some food on an indescribable color was piled on the large cream-colored plates. Huh. That doesn't sound good. Oh, it looks like a stir fry.
これは
She hadn't expected much. And since she also hadn't requested anything, she couldn't just refuse it if it's something she didn't want. But this food left her at a loss for words despite psyching herself up.
これは何
Alice spoke as though she was terrified of what had been placed before her.
何って 焼きうどんに何かかけてみた。
Some stuff. I mean, it doesn't look horrible from the visuals. It just looks like a stir fry. Just a bunch of vegetables thrown together to stir fry it. If Aoko had been there, she probably would have punched him. But Sojiro just confidently placed the 2 large plates on the table. Steam billowed from the mountain of food like an angry volcano ready to erupt at any moment. The thick mystery sauce flowed over the plates as magma might from said eruption. And below it all were a seemingly infinite number of slimy tentacle-like noodles. There was really nothing more to say about it. And this is clearly the food of a poor, struggling student who favored quantity over quality. I mean, yeah, it is a struggle meal, but like, hey, sometimes you need a struggle meal, a good struggle meal. All that was required was a basic recipe, the will to cook something, and what few ingredients were needed. The pile of stir-fried noodles with sauce slathered on top was so horrifically bad, it was almost an art form. This is a bachelor's cooking, if she's ever seen it. Hey, hello? Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. There was really nothing else you could call it. She had wondered what he was doing for an hour in there, and it turned out he had been making this sauce. No sauce would have been fine, but Sojiro had wholeheartedly gone the extra mile. Sojiro bowed his head slightly and picked up his chopsticks. He had bought a fork for Alice. It's gonna taste good, surely. It can't be bad. She picked up a fork and stuck it into the noodles, half drowning in sauce. Sojiro began eating, not seeming to care what Alice sat there, looking like she was about to eat poison. Seeming to view this as a challenge, Alice furrowed her brow and slowly brought the mass of noodles to her mouth. It was a little salty and ugly to look at, but it didn't taste all that bad. If anything, it was actually pretty good. It's gonna be good. It can't be bad.
一つ聞きたいんだけど。
Sojiro put down his chopsticks and turned to speak to Alice.
実際の話、魔術師の話はともかくとして、
Ooh, wow.
青崎はまだ誰にも手を出してないんじゃないか。
Alice looked up quietly at the sudden question. She'd been expecting Sojiro's meal, but now she looked straight at him.
おかしなことを聞くのね、しずきくんは。
Yeah, it is.
アリスには悪いけど、これは青崎本人には聞きようのないことだから。言いたくなければ答えないでくれ。
Alice didn't respond. Sojiro resumed eating, not seeming disappointed. Alice stared blankly at him, slurping his noodles. After much hesitation, she replied,
しずきくんの言
Have a
う
good
通
one,
り、
Kev. Thank you, thank you.
青子はまだ人を殺したことはないわ。その行為自体は何回かこなしてはいるけれど。
Alice's response was slow and measured. Sojiro still looked troubled. But not at the conversation they were having. Right, he looked apologetic towards Alice. He had said she didn't have to answer if she didn't want to. But Alice kept talking despite the face he was making.
しずきくんが見た公園での出来事が青子にとって初めての殺人行為よ。あいにく相手は人形だったけど。
Sojiro silently nodded. Alice narrowed her eyes at him suspiciously.
まるで初めから分かっていた素振りね。
そうじゃな。いや、そうなのかな。たまにその手のセリフを言うけど、何か違う気がしたんだ。だから多分、青崎はまだ人殺しというのを体験していないんじゃないかって。でもまあ、そんなことよりもっと確かなのは、
しずきくんが今生きているということね。
Sojiro chuckled at Alice's stellar response. Exactly. Things would have been more clear-cut than that night if Hakuto had actually killed someone before. Sojiro would have been dead before he even saw her face. Yeah, 100%. 100%. For better or worse, Aoko remained inexperienced in spite of her ruthlessness and decisiveness. Sojiro relaxed his shoulders. His stunned face gradually returned to its normal carefree state. Then,
でもそんなことは関係ないわ。あの子はそのあたりが異常だから。行為は理性に、経験は知識でたやすく補ってしまう。そうね。青子はその気になれば迷うことなく人の命に手を出せる。しずきくん風に言うのならだけど。
and with that, Alice went back to twirling noodles around her fork. She looks like she's having fun, Sojiro thought as he ruminated over what she just said. She was rational enough to accept herself despite acting against society's morals. And possessed of an intellect that exceeded even the confidence gained through experience. Had Aoko been raised to utilize her logic and reason to forge reality from fiction? Logic and reason to forge reality from fiction. If that was the case, then perhaps they really were different from Sojiro.
すまない。こんなことを聞いたのは青崎には内緒にしておいてくれないか。
Sojiro seemed serious, as if he really regretted asking. Alice's expression remained unchanged, but she had never intended on saying anything to Aoko anyway.
ありがとう。なんだかアリスには内緒話ばかり溜まっていくね。
Sojiro went back to eating his food. Though Alice had only had a single bite, he was already scraping his clean.
そういえば青崎にも聞いたんだけど、アリスと青崎はいつもああなのか？
Sojiro suddenly decided to change the topic of conversation. His new topic was the rather cool and dry relationship between Aoko and Alice. Aoko said the relationship was normal, but maybe Alice had a different opinion.
会話が少ないことを言っているのならそうなるわ。けど別に不便じゃないから。
Alice was still twirling noodles with her fork as she gave her concise answer. Around and around the noodles went, but none made it into her mouth.
不便じゃないって、そういうの仲がいいって言わないんじゃないのか。
私と青子の仲が良くないとしずきくんは困るの？
Sojiro swallowed his words at Alice's perplexed reply. He would actually, but he wasn't sure how to respond when asked directly.
いや、なんかこっちの考え方が悪かったみたいだ。もうその話題には触れないことにしたから忘れてくれ。それよりアリス。
Sojiro gave Alice a piercing stare that was more intense than any time they talked before. Alice was taken slightly aback at the unusually intense look in his eyes. Her face became slightly flushed out of nervousness. Yeah? Nobody besides Aoko had ever stared at her like this before. Whether or not he noticed, Sojiro waited a few moments before speaking slowly and with complete conviction.
それ食べないなら欲しいんだけど。
Yeah? Bro? Bro? This guy. An awkward silence followed.
悪いけどこれ
Yeah.
私のだから。
You can't just steal it. She was eating. Shizuki had cooked it, sure, but Alice wasn't wrong. He had made it for her after all. There was a slight tinge of anger in her voice, but even she wasn't sure why it was there.
そうだね。少し意地汚かった。
The fuck's wrong with you, Shizuki? Sojiro plopped himself down on the sofa. This must have looked particularly pathetic to Alice, and she responded with,
その材料はもう残ってないの？
and she quickly covered her mouth. Apparently she had surprised even herself. It was quite unusual for her to ask something like that.
残ってないよ。青崎の分も作っちゃったから。
Sojiro stared a bit regretfully at Alice's plate as he responded. Alice could have just let it go, but for some reason she felt the need to speak up again.
青子なら眠っているけど。
So, like, she won't know. She won't know if you just take her plate, you know.
いや、もうすぐ起こすから。
Oh.
起きた後で作らされるより一緒に作っておいた方が楽だしね。と、もうすぐ1時か。ちょうどいい。行って起こしてくるよ。
青子は起こしたら殺すって言ってたけど。
07. Alice wasn't sure why Sojiro was willing to take such a risk. Sojiro agreed, but started walking anyway.
でもさ、今起こしておかないとやっぱり後で殺される運命にあると思うんだ。
Okay. His words were surprisingly affectionate. Leaving Alice with only that, Sojiro headed to Aoko's room. Uh-oh. Alice watched him leave in silence before taking another bite of the stir-fried noodles. Glancing at the door at the hallway to make sure nobody was coming, she took another bite. She repeated that process many times before finishing her food. It was then when she heard Aoko's wrath coming from the second floor. Alice stood up and began solemnly cleaning the table, feeling a bit sorry for what Sojiro was dealing with. She knew she didn't really have to, but she felt like it was the least she could do for him. She'd never really expected to feel this way. But he cooked for her, and it was surprisingly good. Almost enough to make her forget how bad he was at making tea. Almost enough. Wow. Yo? Yo? Okay, boys. You know what this is. We have a certain scarlet thread coming in. Holy fuck. That was not what I expected here. Holy shit. Okay. No extra? It doesn't look like it, no. It would have said it otherwise. Wait, there are extras. Ah. Well, Scarlet Thread's gonna wait till tomorrow. We're gonna do some of the extras right now. I don't want to do a full-on chapter. It's gonna be way too late of a stream. So we're gonna do the extras and then, not tomorrow, Sunday we're gonna do Scarlet Thread. Or Scarred. So, yeah. You can't remember this extra? I mean, there's two of them. Oh! She's here. Okay, give me 15 seconds just to take some... just to chug some water, and I'll be back. .5 is long. Is this one? Whiteboard? I mean, it can't be more than like an hour long, right? The second one's pretty long. Okay, I'm probably just gonna do one then. And then tomorrow I'm gonna do, or next stream I'm gonna do the other one plus a new chapter plus more. How many chapters are in Mahou altogether, by the way?
2の D のKumari です。
How many chapters are there in this game? Because we're definitely finishing this on Tuesday, but I don't know how long this... 13? What do you mean 20? 13 plus extra? Okay. And we did 8, so we have 5 more. Oh, not counting extra. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's fine. We should be pretty easily finishing this in 3 streams after this one. 3 more streams after this. Yeah, especially since they're gonna be normal length streams and not late streams like this one. This one is short because it's a late one, but other ones should be like easily like 4 or 5 hours, so...
退 育館倉庫の鍵職員室に返してきました。
Dude, I really like her voice direction. It's so well done.
体育館倉庫の鍵職員室に返してきました。
Only Aoko was present in the second student council room when Kojika Kumari entered.
お疲れ。もうちょっとでバイト終わるからそこ座ってて。
Final extra deserves its own stream? Oh shoot. Aoko was seated at a long table, surrounded by a pile of textbooks, and using her pen to write rapidly. Shown around the table were not school-specified notebooks, but rather papers for writing reports.
何してんの青崎。課題？それとも補習？どっちにしても真面目なこと。冬休み始まったばかりなのに。そりゃあこんなところで特別清掃なんかに付き合わされているけどさ。
Oh, she's so good.
これは別件。知り合いの大学生から流してもらった代筆のバイト。
As a ghostwriter.
何年も前に提出されたレポートを丸写しにして卒論クリアしようって話。写本ならぬ写レポートかよ。結構な量だなおい。それどこの大学生？まさかみぞら大じゃないでしょうね。
Who voices Kumari, by the way? She sounds so good. Kumari couldn't seem to hide her discomfort as she started thumbing through some of the reports sent to Aoko. The slightly brown-tinged reports had to be at least 10 years old. Anzai Chika? Oh shit! Okay, explains it. She's kind of goated. Okay. Okay.
そのまさかよ。知り合いの大学生なんてみぞら以外にいるかっていうの。安心なさい。熊の兄貴たちからの仕事じゃないから。
Kuma.
そもそもあんたの兄貴軍団今年も残る気満々なんでしょ。熊言わないで軍団もやめろ。
Her voice was snappy. Not that Aoko could judge, but this girl's unfriendliness could rival even her own at times. Kumari's speech was dry enough as it was, but when she got riled up about something, she really let it all out. Apparently, she got it from her father. She was trying to work on it, but it was hard to fix an old habit she had since elementary school.
けどこれどうなのよ。丸写しにしても古すぎて通らないんじゃない？そこはそれ腐ってもタイというか。技術的に古い部分はピックアップしてあるからテキスト参考にして数字だけ変えておいてだってさ。何それ本当にバカじゃないの。そこまで分かってるなら自分でやればいいのに。でいつからやってるの？今日の朝から。半日の稼ぎにしちゃ悪くないわよ。レポート1冊分で1万円。
It's really not bad money for half a day's work. They're paying me 100.
生徒会長が内職かよ。道理で築地に監督を任せたわけだ。はい、他言は無用でお願いします。
Wait, can witches, by the way, can witches only be female? Since it's like a witch? Kumari relaxed a bit at Aoko's pleasant response and decided to sit down in the nearest chair. The room was silent. No, right? Probably not. Battle? Yeah, that's what I... The second that I said no, I was like, wait, battle. I guess he counts as a witch, right? Yeah. The room was silent, save for the sound of the scratching of Aoko's ballpoint pen. Yeah, battle? Yeah. True. Okay. I was thinking that because I was like, what if we get a Kumari, like Mahoya 2, Kumari is the main character, is like the Sono G character, and there's like a male witch there, and it's about them. Fuck it, we ball. I want more Kumari. She's great. The sky was clear blue and there were boys in the rear courtyard playing baseball in their jerseys. With the special winter cleaning finished, it seemed they decided to start enjoying their free time.
この寒いのによくもまあ。
We don't have that much witch info? Damn.
ってあれ2年の男どもだ。
Said boys are playing in teams of 5 since they apparently could not get enough people together to play a proper game. It was a boring game of mostly strikeouts and poor hits, but they sure seemed to be having fun. Their yelling and hollering mostly consisted of bad words, surprised yells, and cackling laughter.
あれゴースケ
Kumari
と
gets
しずきが一緒なのは
her
わかるけ
milk
ど築地も一緒じゃん。青崎、あいつら仲いいの？
Oh shit!
はあ？なんでよそのクラスの集まりに顔出してんのよあいつ。
It's the trio!
まあ
It's the boys!
裏山の清掃が終わってるのは
The boys
文句はないけど。
The squad!
お、投げた。築地ピッチャーできるんだ。
Wait, what are they playing? Baseball. I don't know why I thought it said football. Okay.
基本あいつは何でもできるからね。本人サボり症でめったに動かないけど本気出せば何だってこなすのよ。唯一足りない才能があるとしたら子供らしさってやつでしょうね。詳しいじゃない。青崎、築地と付き合ってるって本当？あいつと付き合うぐらいならあんたと付き合うわ。
Fair enough.
顔のいい男は好きじゃないし、やっぱり男はシュワちゃんぐらいじゃないと。
Austrian? Are you talking about Schwarzenegger?
シュワ、誰それ？
What? That's crazy. Austrian.
グレートの方のコナンの主役やった人。
Get to the chopper.
へえ、顎割れてないとダメなんだ。青崎って面食いかと思ってたけど、ごっつ
Arnold
い系が趣味なの？
Schwarzenegger mentioned in Mahoya. That was not on my bingo list. Lamar.
別にそういうわけじゃないけど。教訓よ、教訓。なよっとしたやつとか、やけに口がうまいやつとか、気軽な男はほんと信用ならないっていうか。
Conan. They continue that conversation. DM says a bitch. Yeah, it's like the JoJo translations that they're doing. Zipper Man. One staring at the report pages and the other gazing out to the schoolyard. They'd met in high school and soon grew to be friends who enjoyed chatting together.
青崎、冬休みはどうする？予定ある？1回ぐらいは遊びに行きたいんだけど、超忙しくて。年明け、あ、
Oh, oops.
B 組の山瀬さんたち誘う？確か去年も冬休みに上京してたでしょ、彼女ら。ああ、ありゃ私たちと系統が違う。生粋のお嬢様だからね。
Next week is new JoJo.
青崎の趣味知った
I'm so
ら
excited.
ドン引きされるからやめといた方がいい。
Part 7, baby.
お、撃たれた。
Damn.
おお、柵越えた。あれってホームランってやつだ。やるじゃん、しずき。築地から1本取るなんて運動神経抜群ね。そりゃ山育ちだし、それぐらい取り柄がないと。来年の身体測定、飛び丸とトップ争うんじゃない？山じゃ2時間歩きっぱなしとかザラだったそうだし、水泳部じゃなく陸上部に紹介すればよかった。詳しいのね。もしかして付き合ってるのあっちとか。あ、いや、さすがにないか。
That's crazy. Nah, she wouldn't. Surely she's not. No, nah, can't be. The constant sound of Auka's ballpoint pen moving across paper suddenly stopped. Uh-oh, don't slip up. Don't out yourself. She stood up naturally from her seat, took a quick break to pour some fresh tea. And returned to her work without acknowledging what had been said.
冬休みの予定だけど、くまり、何かリクエストある？別に。見たい映画が溜まってるだけ。こっちじゃ上映しない映画をはしごしたい。青崎は？私は新しい冬物と CD 買えればいいかな。あ、その前にまずは CD プレイヤーか。そろそろ3万円切るはずなのよ、あれ。
When did CDs become like normalized to have, and CD players? Was it as early as 88 or 1988? I thought it was a bit later, like the 90s. 90s? Wasn't Arnie governor of Florida for a while? He was, yeah. I think it was Florida. I know he was one of the states.
Ha. 新しいもの好きよね、あん
It's
た。
just an expensive
CD
fad.
なんて高いだけで騒がれてるのは今だけだってば。
Oh god.
だいたい音楽なんてレンタルしてカセットテープに落とせば500円で済むじゃない。ベータデッキみたいにそのうち廃れるって。
Betamax. Jesus Christ.
そう私 CD は定番になると思うけどな。過去になるのはカセットテープの方よ、きっと。それはない、絶対ない。かけてもいい。だって CD で録音できないん
When
で
you
しょ。
can't even record them?
そんなのにカセットテープが負けるはずない。
Wow, Kuma. Let me introduce you to this program called Nero? I think that's what it was called.
クマは保守派だからな。政権交代は何にだってあるでしょうに。でもまあその賭け乗った。生徒会の歴史に書いておくから
Nero,
ね。
yeah.
10年いえ5年後を楽しみにしていましょう。5年後か。いいね。ちょうど大学の終わりだ。青崎、東京の大学に行くんでしょ。どこ志望してるのか教えてよ。実はまだ決めてないのよ。上京したいのは山々なんだけど。おいおい
Nero mentioned.
あんたのことだから向こう3年分ぐらいスケジュール組んでると思ったのに。
Aoko left dryly at the obvious jam. Aoko knew what direction she wanted her life to go in, but she didn't usually think too much about the details. Once she made a decision, she followed through with it. That was why she didn't actually write out a schedule.
クマ、終わったら駅前のラーメン屋付き合ってよ。体力使ったからなんかお腹減ってきた。そこは頭使ったから甘いもの食べたくなったにしといた方が女らしいと思うけどね。いいよ、うちでいいならサービスしとくけど寄ってく？
Ooh.
もちろん、持つべきものは女の友情。
The girls waited patiently for winter vacation to start in the student council room. Their free time after school was spent through this kind of frivolous conversation. Aoko spent her nights as a major, her days as a normal high school student. The conversations she had with her friends were no different from any other girls her age. She enjoyed both aspects of her life equally, even if one of those involved fighting against mortal enemies.
ところで青崎、さっきの掛け金はどうする？そうね、私も鬼じゃないし、その時の貯金1割で手を打つわ。根こそぎ奪うのは勘弁してあげる。
She wasn't lying, but fundamentally, she was still an imp at heart.
なんかゾワッときたな、今。
Victim A whispered quietly after sneezing.
なんだよ、風邪でもひいたか、しずき。よし、じゃあこんなとこで野球やっててもしょうがねえし、街に繰り出すとしましょうか。
This is their fourth game of 5-man baseball. Damn. He's actually wearing it. Oh my god. Also, they did say that the collar was just something that she picked up as a joke, right? It doesn't do anything. I'm pretty sure he just doesn't need to take those pills anymore, and she was like, you know what, let me get him this, right? It doesn't do anything at all. It gained some spectators since starting an hour ago, and we're playing special rules where infield grounders were called out when caught, and home runs were rewarded with leftover sweet red bean soup cans. Posuke Kinomi had gotten bored once he realized it was still going to be a while until it was his turn to play.
お前ほんと猿だったんだな。先立つものがねえから野球やろうぜって言い出したのはてめえだろうが。
It humiliates him? Yeah.
それはそれ、これはこれっしょ。
Yeah, but it doesn't like, it keeps the other girls away. Yeah, it's a deterrent, okay. Yeah. No Magecraft involved. Perfect. It was her way of branding him.
だって A 組のやつらとか集まってきたしさ、俺あいつら嫌いだしさ、なんかノリが合わないっていうか。
安心しろ、あっちもてめえとは合わねえとよ。いい機会じゃねえか。気に食わないんなら試合で片付けてやれよ。
Oh, oops. Kumari calmly punched back at Kinomi while practicing his pitch at the wall. He was throwing harder than usual. Maybe he was angry because of that home run he gave up earlier. He was in Class A and had taken on the role of captain for the other boys from Class A who showed up to play.
ちょっと待った。そりゃ誤解だぜ、殿下。俺たち木の実結構好きよ。バカなところとか、平気で女連中の品評会開くところとか、合コン企画するところとか、真似できねえよ、ほんと。
All the other boys in Class A nodded affirmatively.
ざけんな！てめえらいつも美味しいところだけ持っていきやがって。カラオケ会開いてよ、女の子と遊びたいよなんて甘えてきやがって。なんで気がついたら俺一人だけで会計してたの？一緒にテニス部覗きに行ったのに、どうして俺だけ悪者なの？もしかして利用されてるだけってそろそろ気がついていいの？やべ、まだ気づいてなかった。本物だ。
ごめん。木の実のおかげで僕にも彼女ができました。彼女の口癖は木の実くんよりマシよです。
That's crazy. That's crazy banter. You're getting personal.
てめえら本気でムカつく。青くせえ学生生活を送ってんじゃねえ。
Kinomi took his bat and swung it around as he chased after the boys in Class A. They seemed to be having fun running from him while sarcastically thanking him. One of Kinomi's best virtues was his ability to remain good-natured in the face of insults.
木の実は人気者だな。
Man, I'm so happy that everyone in school here just has like good vibes. Like there's no like bullying, shukonden or anything. It's just good vibes in high school. It's great.
ああ、バカなのが救いだな。あれで下手に利口だったら犯罪者になってるところだ。いや、その前に今度こそ青崎に締められるか。あいつ小ずるいチンピラには容赦ねえからな。
そうなのか。今度こそ。
The soldier fell deep into thought. From the way that sounded, Kinomi seemed to have some kind of history with Aoko Aozaki.
木の実は青崎に、その化粧してたことがあるのか。
Bro, he's picking up the lingo.
あ、化粧？あ、化粧か。あのバカにそんな風情があるかって。ちょいとな、青崎と木の実には条件反射じみた事件があったんだよ。ありゃ入学式のことだ。そうだよな、木の実。
Kinomi froze and glanced back at Tobimaru's provocation.
ああ、入学式な。すげえ体してる女子がいたからさ、つい声をかけたんだよな。
Bro? The fuck?
彼女、どのクラスって。
You can't just reach out. Oh my god. You deserve.
いやでもまさか手が出るとは思わなかった。俺的には1センチ前で寸止めしようとしたんだけど、目測を誤った。俺の視覚情報より青崎の肉体のサイズがやや勝っていたということさね。
Kinomi laughed loudly as he gazed up at the sky. That was all the explanation Soldier needed to know what really happened that day at the entrance ceremony.
バカな。なぜ命がある、木の実。
Yeah, fair question. Look, why does it look like he locked in? Look at Sojiro, he looked like he locked in after that.
だろう？俺の顎垂直に跳ね上がったんだぜ。平手とか拳とかそういうレベルじゃねえの。下からギャーンだぜ、ギャーン。周りにいたギャラリー曰く、プールで縦に沈めたビート板が浮上するように青崎の靴がひらめいたらしい。今だから言いますけど、俺あの後の記憶がすっぽりないんです。
She gave him a concussion. She knocked him out flat. Rubbing his jaw, Kinomi returned to their side, tired of wasting his energy chasing after the Class A boys.
そんなことより遊びに行こうぜ。殿下金持ってるだろう？おごってくれよ。
ったく、まあ映画なら考えないこともない。
Yeah, let's go.
ちょうど見たい映画あんだよ。
Ooh.
映画の内容より見終わった後に文句言い合う方が
That sounds
楽しい
fun.
部類の B 級でな。犠牲者が必要なんで、この際てめえでもいいぞ。
やだ、映画とかつまんねえよ。大の男がさ、2時間も同じところ座ってられねえって。
True, this guy seems like he cannot sit still for a movie.
そんなんだったらゲーセンかコンビニの駐車場で駄菓子食ってる方が楽しいって。
Arcade sounds fun.
お前、それ今の状況と何が違うんだ？
いいんだよ、外でだべってれば楽しいんだって。あ、それともバンドでもやるか。今 UK ロックが熱い。バイト先の先輩にパンクロックなら誰でもできると聞いた。
British rock.
ああ、そうかよ。ファッションにならねえようにな。
This is the real country yard during winter vacation. Kinami and Tobmaru spend a relaxing reprieve chattering away about nothing of much substance.
じゃあナンパ、駅前でナンパしようぜ。殿下がいれば年上のお姉さんも釣れるし。そうだ、お金がないならレディーたちにおごってもらえばいいんじゃない？
Yeah.
その年で紐か。てめえの人生設計明るすぎて頭痛がするぜ。
This guy is not gonna lead a nice life. He's gonna be in trouble.
俺将来の展望だけはできてるからね。なあしずき、お前からも言ってやれよ。ナンパに行こうって、女の子たちと楽しく騒ごうって。
Yeah, that's definitely on the forefront of his
殿下は
mind.
立ってるだけでいいし、しずきだって年上のお姉さんから見たら弟属性っていうの。うまくいけばこう、俺の時みたいに1時間後には一冬のアバンチュール。
Like that one time? Hinami's hands are flailing around in excitement, dancing around like so many waving tentacles. His mind was apparently still swimming in the memories of a golden time he had once had. Anyway.
木の実、その時なんて言ったんだ？
え？ああ、その時の決め台詞ね。お姉さん綺麗っすね。俺そこのビルのオーナーの息子なんすけど、ちょっと遊んでいきませんって。
Yeah? That's your pickup line?
嘘だってバレたら逃げられたけどな。
そうじゃなくて入学式。
The other one, Kinami, the other one.
そ
Switch
っ
gears.
ちか。青崎の首から下の部分に向かって、うわ、お前胸でかくね？
He allowed a loud guffaw as he recalled his story. His lack of intelligence and propriety was truly remarkable. How is bro alive? I don't know, or rather mind-boggling. Nonetheless, Kinami was now in high spirits after recalling this exciting memory. Conversely, Sojiro was standing in complete silence.
ん？どうしたしずき？あ、やっぱりナンパとか興味ないか。
当たり前だ。てめえみたいな色ボケと宗十郎を一緒にするな。
Yeah, that arrow curve, yeah.
いや、興味はある。
What?
可愛い女の子は可愛いと思うし、たまに薄着なところに出くわすと
What?
目のやり場に困るだろう。
その G?
ああいう時、自分が男だってことを実感するよな。
They grow up so fast. They grow up so fast. His words shot through the air like a bolt of lightning. It was as shocking as when a kid sees the head of a character at an amusement park fall off, revealing the person inside.
そりゃそうだよな。すまん、見くびっていた。つまりしずきも俺たちの同志ってことでいいんだな。
One of us.
同志。
そうだ、例えばこう夏場の女子のうなじに光る汗とか、
Oh my
テニ
god.
ス部の女子の肩から脇にかけての清涼感とか、ぶっちゃけ水泳部の競泳水着の後ろ姿だよ。
Monsters must have been too lonely. Yet Tarzan coming into society. Sojiro's eyes were filled with question marks. Apparently, he hadn't quite understood Kinami's explanation.
いやだから、普段は同い年のガキにしか見えない女どもでもたまに見せる無防備な仕草とかグッとくるよな。
うん。無防備なのはちょっと考えてほしい。
Makes it look all inviting. Oh my god, this guy. Whether it was because Sojiro was unsure if Kinumi was referring to someone in particular, or whether he was just concerned about how this related to himself, a troubled look washed over his face.
いいんだって、それでいいんだって。なぜなら高校生男子の6割は性欲でできていますからね。
All of the chest shots were actually canon and important to the plot all this time.
よし、そうと決まれば早速ナンパに行こうぜ。メンツが変われば超過も変わるってもんだ。
With that, he happily put his arm around Sojiro's shoulders and headed out towards the train station.
ちょっと待て。あまりのことに絶句しちまったが、てめえは根本的に間違ってる。
Tobimaru, don't interject. Let this become a disaster that it's heading to be.
宗次郎、そもそもナンパって言葉が何なのか知ってるか？ん？
Q, define pickup. To answer a telephone call. To recite a Shakespearean work. To transport someone from one place to another. To pay someone's bills. To try and persuade someone to have a romantic relationship. Surely it's to recite a Shakespearean work, right?
2番か。
For fuck's sake. Ah! For fuck's sake, why did you say the same thing? Wrong. 9 times out of 10, when a bunch of high schoolers are talking about picking up girls, they mean the definition number 5.
ほら見ろ。てめえとは興味の度合いが違うんだよ。女引っ掛けに行くなら一人で行け。なあ、あと岬の駅前はやめとけよ。うちの評判が悪くなるから。ナンパなら隣町でやりやがれ。
Kumari waved his hand at Kinomi as if he was shooing away a pest. Kinomi clicked his tongue in frustration and moved his arm from around Sojiro's shoulders.
くそ面白くねえ。あいよ、おとなしく野球やってますよ。いつの間にか俺たちの番が回ってきたみたいだし。
Complained all the way to the pitcher's mound. Sojiro looked on regretfully.
おい、まさか本気でナンパに行きたかったのか？
いや、ナンパはよくわからないけど、街には用があったんだ。ちょっと欲しいものがあって。そうだ、飛び丸。生徒会室にあるあの白いやつ、どこに行けば買えるか知ってるか？
White thing? Oh, a whiteboard? Sojiro spread his arms wide, making a bizarre gesture. 1 hour later, at the department store in front of the train station, Tobimaru was so confused that he figured out what Sojiro wanted to buy.
しかし、なんだってこんなものを。
Were whiteboards popular in the 80s? I always thought it was kind of like a thing that came later, but it may have been popular. Like markers and whiteboards and shit. The Konji estate was surprisingly comfortable for all 3 of its occupants this evening. Maybe it was because the dinner Alice had prepared was so wonderful.
7回？アリスの実家じゃ1日に7回も食事をとるのか？
Were they ever really popular? I mean, we use them all the time over like normal green boards or whatever. I have 2 whiteboards in my apartment here, one here and one in my room.
一体どうやって？
Sojiro asked Alice this question in the sunroom from the 3rd sofa and brought up from the mansion's basement by himself.
食事をとっているわけじゃないわ。ティータイムは1日7回行うのが理想というだけ。寝起きのアーリー、朝食のブレックファースト、午前の11時ズ、午後のミディティーブレイク、午後の社交会アフタヌーン、夜会のハイティー、ディナー後のアフターディナー。この中で食事に該当するのはハイティーだけよ。田舎での話だけれど。
After dinner tea. At least she doesn't call dinner tea and lunch dinner. Like, they do it in North UK. Alice was enjoying her black tea by herself in the sunroom. She was drinking a royal blend, a fine blend of Darjeeling, Ceylon, and Assam orange Pico tea leaves. To accompany her tea, she had some strawberries dipped in sugar. She was in a world all of her own.
つまり、一日中お茶を飲んでいるのか？
そうね。そう暮らせるのなら。
Ideally, yes. She couldn't understand why this was so hard for Sojiro to grasp. Alice picked a strawberry up with her slender fingers and carried it to her mouth, as if she were going to give it a kiss. Sojiro was briefly transfixed by the graceful sight and shook his head to clear his thoughts. He had become slightly too sensitive to the fact that they were indeed of the opposite sex, perhaps due to his conversation earlier that day. Bro is getting influenced by his peers.
でもその口ぶりだと、アリスは7回できてないんだ。
3回が限度よ。相方が未熟だから、やらなくちゃいけないことが増えてしまって。
相方。
Sojiro turned to look to his side. There he saw. She was there all this time.
1日3回も開いてれば上出来じゃない。うちの生徒会なんて黙ってお茶飲んでるだけよ。いちいち鍋からお湯沸かしてポット使ってたっぷり蒸らすなんて3時のおやつと夕食後だけで十分でしょ。アリスは手間をかけすぎ。私贅沢は好きだけど贅沢になれるのはごめんだから。
Yeah, tea is goated. Tea is great. Even though Aoko was arguing, she still seemed to be in a good mood.
贅沢なのは青子たちの方よ。日本の水道水はこんなにも美味しいのに。どうしてあなたたちはこの黄金の価値に気づかないのかしら。
She's picking up Japanese tap water.
1日7回もお茶会開く国民性じゃないからでしょ。
Cultured.
気をつけなさいね、宗十郎。美味しい紅茶を入れようとしてペットボトルの水なんて買ってきたらアリスに1時間近くお説教されるから。
It was true that better water should make a better cup of tea. That was why Aoko went out and bought bottles of natural spring water as soon as she moved into the Kuonji estate. Her proud show and tell to Alice had led to the first petty argument. The two were exhausted after quarreling about something one would think wasn't nearly as significant as Magecraft.
青崎さん、夕食を作る気力残ってる。
She's panting.
パス。主義に反するけど、てんやものを頼んでみよう。
And that had been her first time ordering from a soba noodle shop by phone. Their slovenly attitude toward household chores had only accelerated since then.
いやー、あの後は悔しくってお茶について調べまくったもんだわ。アリスに質問したり競い合ってたらいつの間にか私も紅茶党の仲間入りよ。私、姉貴の影響で中学までコーヒー党だったのに。
I mean, coffee slaps.
そこには感謝しているわ。青子が連れ出してくれなかったらコープランドのアンティークカップに出会えなかったもの。
気がついたら骨董品回りしてたものね、去年の私たち。
The drawing room and the sunroom. Though they were not even in the same room, the two were simply enjoying a fun and lively conversation nonetheless. Sojiro wondered why they didn't just sit together and chat in the drawing room since they got along so well. He didn't yet understand how the physical distance between them made those stories of old memories more meaningful.
アリスは外に出ない子だったんだ。
ええ、この子ったらほんと屋内派で外に出るのは学校だけだったんだから。今日だってずっと洋館にいたんでしょ、アリス。
That doesn't sound good, Robert.
違うわ。外に用がないだけよ。今日はプロイの補充に忙しかっただけだし。
それだ。プロイの補充ってことは遊園地の時みたいなのはここで生まれてるのか？
Oh. Ever since that terrible incident, Sojiro had been sensitive whenever ploys came up. He'd only been worried about escaping with his life at the time, but as time passed, what were those mysterious things? He became filled with curiosity.
何知りたい宗十郎。
教えてくれるなら知りたいけど、いや、よく考えると聞かない方がいいような。やっぱり知りたいような。
よし、そういうことなら話してあげましょう。ちょっとした触りだけなら怒らないわよね、アリス。
Ako quickly recrossed her legs in
別
anticipation.
に私とあなたの違いを話すぐらいならいいけど。
よし、決まったって何よあんた、妙な顔して。自分から言っておいて尻尾巻くの？
いや、そうではなく。
Sojiro diverted his eyes at Aoko's direct stare. Sojiro and Aoko currently only spend time together at her dinner. Every once in a while, however, he would catch a glimpse of some innocent gesture of hers and wouldn't know how to
いいんだ、
respond.
続けてくれ。興味はある。
よし、じゃあコマ鳥呼ばないとね。
You Robin!
それでは特別授業、なぜなにプロイキッシャー始まり。
Ploy kick chores. Aoko snapped her fingers. Apparently, she was trying to mimic turning on the switch to a TV. It was a veritable TV special. That's how a lecture about a certain brand of Magecraft, performed and directed by Alice Konji, first aired. Unfortunately, the special production was cancelled only 30 minutes after it began. Apparently, the content had been a little too esoteric for Sojiro.
分かってはいたけど、しずきくんの覚えの悪さは3000世界に響き渡るわね。
She almost said he was better off dead, but took a deep breath to avoid being hurtful. Thanks, Alice.
かわい
Appreciate
そう
that.
なアリス。さすがに今回は同情するわ。
We were robbed because Sonji stood down.
そいつにとっちゃ、
No.
私の魔術もアリスの魔術もすごく便利でくくられちゃうものだなんて。他の魔術師が聞いたら失神者の屈辱よ。
Amazingly convenient. Aoko was exasperated. She also felt some measure of regret. She should have realized this would have been the outcome.
そんなことはない。ちゃんと区別はつく。青崎は壊すだけで、アリスはいろんなものを作って、それで壊すんだろ？アリスの方がやや生
That
産
was
的だ。
so insulting.
怖いわ、青子。
What?
私、どうしてか胸が苦しい。こういうことって本当にあるのね。
Bro, you can't say that.
まるでお気に入りのカップを割ってしまった時、通りかかったキリンに「でもトロルよりマシですよ」と慰められた気分だわ。
どういう意味よそれ。
That feels like a personal jab. Aoko glared at Alice sitting across from her. Alice had alluded to a fairy tale about a less than intelligent giant who lives under the bridge. Oh,
今の宗十郎の指摘結構合ってると思うけど、私アリスのプロイが生活の役に立つとこ見たことないし、コマドリも双子も最後はドジって終わりじゃない。
それは結果論よ。役立とうという諸子は尊重するべきだわ。だいたいあれやそれが最後に全部台無しにするのは私の責任じゃないのだし。
the twins. Both girls were now just intent on calling the other out. It seemed neither wanted to admit their own shortcomings when it came to Magecraft, even when it came down to a silly argument about who was the worst at breaking things.
いや、でもアリスの使い魔は役に立ってるぞ。前に森で落ち葉を集めている豚を見かけた。
The pigs.
あれはアリスの使い魔なのに、なんで青崎に言ってやらないんだ？まあ、いいことをしたのに黙っているのは美徳だって山城先生は言ってたけど。
Alice had simply sent the chatty twins out to the forest to break them in, as it were. To Sojiro, this had seemed like a good deed. Aoko was visibly getting more fed up with this conversation since Sojiro had decided Alice was the victor here.
はっ、掃除をしているから生産的とか、ずいぶん小さな判断ですこと。
Are you
も
gonna
っとこ
argue?
う大きな視点で評価できないのかしらね。
There's
こ
no
の
way you're
お
gonna
掃除
argue
マシンは
that cleaning is not productive.
大きな視点。例えばお金儲けとか。
The two girls try to remain calm in the face of such a direct question. Even a fool could think of a good idea
切れ
sometimes.
た。我ながらその発想はなかったわ。盲点すぎたっていうか、基本魔術って損失しか生まないものだから。
Alice nodded affirmatively.
それで例えばあなたから見て私の魔術はどんな金策ができると思う？
Oh.
青崎ならそうだな。マグロを捕まえるのはどうだろう。
What? That's horrible. Oh, here we go. This is important. Canonically important. Aoko adjusted the position of her crossed legs.
なんでマグロ？
She asked this question seriously.
いや、朝一で大変高価だと聞いた。でも捕まえるのは難しいって。あんな巨大なものが水の中では車より速く泳ぐと。
そりゃ地球が誇る大型肉食魚だからね。お寿司屋さんでも最強だし。平均時速60キロ、マックススピードは時速180キロに迫ると聞くわ。
部長曰く青崎は泳ぎがうまいって。
You snooze, you lose, Robert. You
泳
snooze,
い
you
で捕ま
lose.
えられないか。
Couldn't you swim and catch one?
もう魔術関係ないわねそれ。仮にマダンで迎撃できたとしても保存できないわ。私回転を早めるのが専門で止めるのはちょっと。アリスは？
What the fuck are you guys talking about? Alice quietly added that some of them were oddly interesting to her, so she wouldn't feel comfortable harming them. Aoko shrugged her shoulders, throwing that idea to the side.
ところで喧嘩売ってる？しずきくん。
すまない。実はちょっとからかってみた。
The collar around his neck tightened for a good 5 seconds. It was the size of a sleeper hold.
と、まあ、青崎には乱暴なことしか期待できないとして、アリスはどうなんだ？何も言わないということは、魔術でお金儲けは気に入らない？
そうね。好き嫌いはともかく、お金があるのはいいことだわ。教会の目をくぐり抜けることができるなら、青子には頑張ってほしい。
危ない目に遭うのは私だけか。
Yeah, she's like, I'm not gonna make money, but if Aoko can make money for us, you know, I'm all for it.
アリスのプロにはなんかないの？土食べたら金に変換するようなカバとか。
Yeah, some alchemy. Turning stuff into gold.
ほら、中世の貴族はお抱えの錬金術師で日夜金を作り出す研究をしてたって言うじゃない？
あれはただの金食い虫。まあ、
Wow.
騙した貴族たちの貯蓄を食いつぶして新しい技術を生み出したから無意味ではなかったけど、このマイセンももともとは金を作ると豪語した錬金術師が苦し紛れに生んだ時期なわけだし。
Alice ran a finger along the edge of the teacup in her hand.
はあ、錬金術師ほど当てにならないやつはいないってわけか。今じゃプラハの錬金術師は証券魔術師、エジプトの方は兵器作ってるって話だしね。
Egypt. Atlas mentioned.
ええ、ちょっと期待してしまったけど、もともと私たちは現実社会と折り合いが悪いのよ。神秘に特化しすぎているから。ロンドンの名門になると家訓と授業は別物と割り切っていて、金融専門の弟子を取っているわ。
Finance? That sounds like something like Adashino would do.
噂だけど、ある財閥の総帥は社員全員の血を吸って情報を共有するネットワークを作っているとか。何でも吸血鬼になった理由が精神的につながった決して内部闘争しない紹介を作りたいからだったとか。
Who the fuck are you talking about?
極まってるな。 要はそこまで徹底しないと魔術でお金儲けは難しいってことか。あ、アリスのプロイで遊園地をやるのはどう？
Sojo clapped his hands together in excitement.
それはいい。襲われるのはもうコリゴリだけど、あの遊園地なら連日連夜大盛況だ。
私のプロイを見せ物にする気？
でも大受けよ、絶対。ロボットって言い張ればみんな騙されるし。
Crazy
却
scam
下よ
artist.
青子。この話もう一度したら絶好だから。
本気で怒らせたか。だってさ、宗十郎、遊園地は諦めましょう。今度こそ友情を失っちゃうし。
Aoko backed down after Alice's cold rejection of the idea. The small talk continued, but the girls grew more distant as they tried to avoid further conflict. Sojiro looked at the two with a perplexed expression.
ちょっといいかな。今猛烈に気になったんだが。
何？
いや、青崎もアリスも遊園地で本気で殺し合っただろう。それなのにまだ友達だったのか？
Friends, huh? It was certainly a rude question to ask, but it was also an obvious thing to ask. Aoko and Alice looked at each other as they thought of the answer. They stared at each other for about 2 seconds.
ギリギリあり？
Yeah, it's just maid stuff.
まあギリギリ。
Yeah, mages work on a different plane of reality.
ありなんだ。
Though their friendship was surprisingly light-hearted, it also seemed to be forged from bonds harder than steel. That's just the mage equivalent of like shouting at your friend for like over like a League of Legends match or something and having a shouting match over it. And then the next day, you're chill. You forget about it. The long and extended tea party had just started to get going when Sojiro had to leave. He didn't really want to since he was enjoying himself, but he couldn't miss his part-time job.
2時間も話してたなんて珍しいわね。アリスもいつになく饒舌だったし。
成り行きよ。しずきくんがあれこれ青子に質問して、あなたがそれを私にも向けてきただけ。ほんと、私たちが一日何をしているのかなんて聞いても仕方がないのに。
いや、それがそうでもない。大変役に立ちました。
はい？
Hi? Sojiro was carrying something down the hallway, ignoring Aogo's surprise. It was a large whiteboard, much like the one in the student council room. On the shiny new boards was written chores list, mansion cleaning, first floor east wing only, breakfast, dinner, cleaning bath. Dude, whiteboards are the most useful thing ever.
なんかいろいろと詮索してくると思ったら、
Wow.
そういう裏があったわけ？
Hey, there needs to be some order. Chore list is great.
うん。
If you're living with
歪みを
someone.
正したかったら、まずどこがおかしいのか知らないといけないからね。今夜の話じゃ、2人とも1日に1時間ぐらいは使える時間があるみたいだし、3人で1つの台所を使ってるんだから、ローテンションを組んだ方がいいだろう。
Sojiro was clearly proud of his attempt at making things better around here.
待って。私はあなたを住まわせているだけで、協力なんてする気はないって言ったでしょ。
うん、言ったね。でも、夕食を用意するなら私の分もお願いと言いたいのなら、相互扶助は当然の義務だと思うんだ。
If you can ask me to make dinner for you while I'm cooking for myself, I'm pretty sure you asked her if she wants any, she didn't even answer, and you just made more. She did not ask you. But okay.
あと3人で食費を集めれば、その分美味しいものが食べられるよ。
Sojiro's words pierced Alice's heart. She knew she had asked him to make dinner for her many. Oh, she did? Okay, never mind. Never mind, she asked him. It was a carefully planned attack designed to make her repent for her sins, and she knew it.
でもホワイトボードを用意することはないんじゃない？当番なんて今まで口約束で決めてきたんだし。
Alice nodded in agreement. There was nothing less reliable in this world than a verbal promise. Even if they didn't say so, Sojiro could tell by the look on their faces that they intended to skip out on whatever task they were assigned to do.
ダメだ。正しい生活を送るには正しい役割を把握しないと。こういう風に書いておけば後になっても忘れないだろう。
Aoko recalled that this new development. She couldn't tell if Sojiro was just being nice, or if he was saying he wouldn't tolerate any slackers.
なんてこと。証明文を書かせて責任の所在を明らかにしようだなんて。
She looks so troubled. Alice was absolutely terrified at the prospect of daily chores.
決まりだな。誰がどこを担当するかはまた明日話し合おう。今の二人が大変なのは分かってるから、しばらくの間はこっちが多めに受け持つよ。
And with that, Sojiro left. The two girls left behind could only sit and stare, stunned at the shiny new whiteboard.
こういうのを飼い犬に手を構える
Dog biting the
と
hand
いう
that
のか
feeds
し
it.
ら。割と小酌な性格をしていたのね、彼。
知ってた。私あいつがそういうやつって知ってたわ。
But now it's too late. They'd already been caught in the trap. Just this morning, Aoko had received a portion of the salad Sojiro prepared. She knew it would be wrong for her to veto the idea of them all helping each other out. The concept of dividing up specific chores made perfect sense to Aoko after all. Even so, she wanted to be able to tip the ratio of chores in her favor, at least sometimes.
青子、あなた何を考えているか丸分かりよ。
そうでしょうとも。間違いなく同じことを考えてたからね、私たち。
Aoko sighed as she grabbed the whiteboard. She was going to hang it up in the kitchen so that they could all see it. Alice was still staring at the whiteboard blankly.
せめて新しい項目が増えなければいいけど。
She would come to regret ever saying those words. That's it. Crazy. Whoa, what the fuck? What's this? The Wonderful World of Ploys? This is 8.5 and then this is extra. Extra after extra, great. I mean, we're not doing this obviously today. It's better doing for last? Nice, okay. Super short. Super short? I mean, I'm not doing it today. Nah, I'm gonna wrap it up for today. Let me get this OST going though. Because this OST is a banger. Dude, that was so peak. That's so peak. Every single chapter, I feel like from here on out is just gonna be so peak. It's so good. It's like these chapters are so funny. They're so funny. Oh, the vibes were so on point today. The vibes were on point. And then they just drop that title for next chapter. Scar Red. Hello? 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 That's so hype. That's so hype. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. So wait, we did 8. So we have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have 5 chapters left. Plus the extras. The likeliest place Ufotable will cut stuff if they cut. Oh yeah, for sure. They definitely will. I mean, things will be cut, right? Obviously, because they need to be cut, because it's a movie. And yeah, those are gonna be the things that they're gonna be cut. Do you like Sojiro? I like Sojiro. Yeah. Do you think movies going beyond Kidsland will be waiting another 4+ years for part 2? I would be extremely surprised if the movie didn't end with... I feel like it's gonna end with obviously the scene of Sojiro and Aoko, you know, after the entire battle, them being like extremely wounded and all those things. And then the movie's gonna end, and then there's gonna be a credit scene, and then there's gonna be an after credit scene of... I'm trying to think what the after credit scene would be of. Maybe some kind of like... I don't know. I think it's gonna tease something. Maybe like a Toko. I'm guessing Toko is gonna play a prominent role here. Considering the name of the next chapter, maybe it's gonna show like Toko ominously, or something like it's gonna be an ominous short scene of some kind of teaser of the next movie. Yeah, the Puppet Master, yeah. I think the movie comes out Genshin Anime Take Prio. I mean, the movie Scarlet in the background looking at them from somewhere, yeah. I don't think the next movie is gonna take 4 years. I think the next movie is gonna take probably about 2 years. If I were to take a guess, 1.5 to 2 years. I think they're gonna capitalize on the hype going, probably. Because I'm gonna guess that they've obviously been working not just on the first movie, but also on the sequels as well. It's affordable on Type Moon. I think 1 year. Maybe. Do you plan to watch the movie on the big screen? No, I'm gonna restrain myself. I'm gonna restrain myself, and I'm gonna make sure to watch it for the first time on YouTube. I really want to watch it on the big screen, but I am going to restrain myself and watch it with you guys on a stream once it comes out on streaming services. I feel they already started on 2. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Taking one for the team. Yeah. Yep. I don't even know if it's gonna play on my local theater anyway, so... Probably not going to. We crowdfund a cinema and do both at the same time. True. Just book out the entire cinema, set up a camera in my face, and then take a cam rip for the reaction. Bring in a bunch of lights as well to light up my face. Will I get banned if I gloat how good the movie was in Evishim after seeing it in theaters? Possibly. Possibly. I'm kidding. Yeah, if it's no spoilers, it's fine. Doesn't like to release their movies digitally until way later. Yeah, I know, because they usually, I mean, it depends. It depends on what movie it is. If it's Demon Slayer, that makes sense because they want to keep it in a cinema for as long as possible, so they don't want to release it digitally until way later. But depending on how long they plan to keep Mahoyo in the cinema, we'll see. Movie Shark subs. Because I don't think it's Ufotable who's gonna decide when it gets released, right? I'm pretty sure it's gonna be Aniplex. Demon Slayer numbers for movie 1? Fuck no. Fuck no. Especially not when it comes to like global stuff. Oh fuck no. It's not gonna be an insane sensation or anything along those lines. I think it's gonna be like Mahoyo is like, it's pretty niche, even within the Fate community. It's pretty niche. Like it has its obviously core fan base and stuff, but it's too niche. Yeah. If it's gonna do Heaven's Feel numbers, I can't see it doing Heaven's Feel. I mean, I'm down for it to do great, but I can't see it do Heaven's Feel numbers. Heaven's Feel was insane. The numbers for Heaven's Feel were insane, especially if like prior to Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer kind of like raised the bar and changed the game, but the Heaven's Feel numbers prior to Demon Slayer were insane. How do you like the chemistry of the 3 main characters as of now? Oh, it's by far my favorite thing. It's awesome. Demon Slayer was niche. I think Demon Slayer, the only niche that Demon Slayer had was that it was anime. I think everything else about it appealed to basically everyone. With Worldwide Heavens was possible. It's gonna be New Blood when the collab reaches FGONA. Do you really think FGONA is that big of a is gonna be that big of a push though? I don't know, we'll see. Sure, Robert, I'm gonna find it out anyway the second that I log into FGO, so sure. So yeah. Even before anime, Kimetsu was more popular in Japan than titles like Black Clover. Interesting. I had no idea how popular the manga was. But fair. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Demon Slayer is just, I mean, it changed the game. It changed the game for anime. So anime popularity. After Witch on the Holy Night, Murder of the Kumano Hot Springs, the Robin saw it. Magicians only live twice. Oh, great. Oh yeah, you just finished this one this week, Neoverse? Yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun. Perfect timing for the FGO collab. That's gonna be so fun. Sounds like a word salad, yeah. Reading along with Matt. Are you enjoying it, Matt? Because I'm loving it. Tsukihime next. We're definitely gonna do Tsukihime, but after we finish Mahoyo, we're definitely going back to FGO and catching up to FGO, and then after that, we're doing a bunch of. But oh yeah, for you, I mean, the problem with the remake is that it's not finished, right? So the original is finished, the remake is only part 1. Matt and Matt, yeah. Definitely enjoying it. Good to see, good to hear. Oh yeah, OC2 came out like yesterday, 2 days ago. Or 3 days ago, I don't remember. Yup. So, yeah. Also, let me see. I got some pings earlier. Let me see if that's anything. No. Not rolling for Marie? Nah. Nah, I'm good. I like her design. I will say, I like her style more, like the most in her Ascension 1. Obviously, I like the fact that they kind of like age it up in up like the other Ascensions, but I really like the clothing and the outfit that she has in Ascension 1 the most. So I'm a bit sad that they didn't keep the style, you know, the cyberpunky style, I guess the streetwear punk style that she has in Ascension 1. But no, I'm not pulling for her. She doesn't really. Her kit is kind of like. So. There's a safe for work version. Oh, for Tsukihime the OG. Wait, is it an eroge? I didn't know it's an eroge. Who for the twink? I'm good. The twink that has every single buff for like quick cards, and then he has an arts MP. Yeah. Yes. Okay. We'll just play the safe for work version. We'll just play the safe for work version since I'm playing it on stream, right? So is OG Fate. Yeah, I know that OG Fate is, but obviously I'm playing the remake, which doesn't have any 8 scenes in it, so that's gonna be good. We're chilling. F. What do you mean F? Maria Alter first showed up in the Requiem collab. Oh shit, that's crazy. That's cool. I wish I could have played the Requiem collab. I wanna see Ares in it. I wanna see what she's like. But I guess I can just read the Requiem eventually. I saw that both of the volumes are fan translated at this point, but it's 2 volumes. NASA sections suck anyway. That's what I heard. I heard that basically the reason why they're even in there is because every single visual novel had to be an eroge back in the day. So it was kind of like not really that important to the plot or anything along those lines. Requiem collab also has spoilers for Requiem volumes that are not even out. Yeah. She was dressed as Little Red Riding Hood there? Damn. Yeah. It was the style, yeah. It felt like every single visual novel back in that day had to be an eroge. Suppose a synopsis. Great. Yeah, I mean, if this is the first work of Nasu, like Mahoyo, then I'm excited for the others. I'm honestly the most excited. Like, I am excited for like Tsukihime and stuff, but I'm the most excited to actually go into the original, or not original, but I guess the remake of the Fate Stay Night visual novel, because I really want to get into the Fate route, and I want to see the Heaven's Feel route without like 90% of it being cut, right? Like they did in the movies. I want to see the actual, you know, how it's supposed to be. UBW, I feel like, was a pretty faithful adaptation, probably. But the other two, obviously, one of them didn't get a ufotable adaptation, and the other one felt very chopped up. So I really wanna experience them in all their glory. Extra? Yeah, I'm excited for Extra. Yep. I'm excited for all of them. Extra is going to be the first one after we catch up to FGO because of OC3. So that's gonna be fun. Have you watched the Saber Root Studio Dean one? Nope, I'm waiting to play it first. I'm gonna play it first, the Fate route, and then after that I'm gonna watch the Studio Dean one. Because I want to have at least one route that I can go into at least semi-blind, even though I've read Garden of Avalon, but that's kind of like just backstory on Saber and stuff, right? So it doesn't really spoil it. So I want to go into one of the routes blind, and that's gonna be the Fate one. Tsukihime has the same quality of writing as Mahoya, more of a sense of grandiose. Oh, cool. I'm excited. Also choices. I mean, yeah, the difference is obviously that one is originally a visual novel, while this one was originally a novel, right? Or light novel or whatever. You gotta play the 2 rerun events, and you have 2 events that are not reruns. Okay. I mean, I can always push back OC3. I don't have to do it on a release, you know? I don't have to do OC3 on release. I mean, I'm definitely not gonna do it on the day of release anyway, even if I am caught up, just because I want to give you guys also the chance to play through it on your own. Because I feel like it's better if I play it like a week or 2 after its release. Yeah, to give you guys an opportunity to, you know, play it on your own, and after you're done with it, then we can stream it on my end as well. I feel like that's better. So we'll see. We'll see. Because I feel like most people want to probably experience it on their own time to get their own experience before seeing it on stream. Not counting OC3, definitely will catch up this year. Oh, definitely this. Oh, I mean this year with FGO for sure. With Nasuvar stuff. I don't know about that one. But yeah, for FGO for sure, yeah. Yes, yes, yes. For sure. Yeah, FGO, yeah. We will. We will, easily. We don't have much left. Streaming Pokemon after all Nasuvers. I probably will once the new Pokemon comes out. I might stream it. Because I'm gonna play it anyway, so might as well turn on the camera. It'll be hard to watch any streams, but I'll return in autumn. Yeah, that's fine, Dime says. All good. All good. I mean, I'm gonna stream the summer event. I'm gonna stream whatever's gonna be out at that point. That's gonna be the Draco rerun, I think. The summer 6 rerun, I think, or something along those lines. And then there's obviously summer 9. So a bunch of stuff. A bunch of stuff. We're gonna have fun. Summer's gonna be hype. I mean, we're not that far off. Isn't the first rerun in like May or something? That's like 2 months, 2.5 months from now. Summer 6? Nice. Five? I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways. Anyways. That's it. So let's wrap it up here. Next stream is gonna be on Sunday. So it's gonna be nice and weekend stream at an earlier time than today, probably 4 p.m. CET, and we're gonna do a bit more content because obviously I'm gonna have more time. It's not gonna be a 3-hour stream. Oh, it's almost 4 hours today as well. Oh god. Yeah, it's gonna be a bit of a longer one, so we can sink our teeth into maybe 2 chapters. Hopefully, as long as they're not too long. And then Monday, Tuesday, and we finish it. So see you guys on Sunday. So thank you guys for joining, and see you guys in the next one. Bye.